radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio. For the masses. Yeah, man. Today's Monday, April 20th, 2020. 111 days into the new year, only 265 days left. That's right. It's Happy 420 Day. There you go, you potheads. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south. Far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planets. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? It's Monday, April 20th. You know what that means. All of you potheads right now, I know what you're doing. Pull stem. Yeah, I know what a pull stem is. They still call them that these days. Oh, man. You can smell it, man. You just walk outside. 420 day. And, all of those years of repression from the man. And today, where is it possible to still get arrested somewhere in the United States for pot? I mean, even if it's still illegal, would a cop really, you got a joint, you got a bat, whatever, would they still arrest you? Maybe take it from you. I don't know. But would they still? So, and my point is, like here in California, where pot, you trip over pot in the streets now. Pot is everywhere. It's just everywhere. Whatever. Nobody cares. So does that take the rebel portion out of it? 420 day. Let's rebel against the man. Right? It's legal. Nobody cares anymore. Oh, man. It's so funny. Well, we made it. We got here. Happy 420 day, everybody. And go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. All right. Oh, man. You know what? I'm going to tell a story. Nah, I'm not going to tell a story. I was going to tell a pot story. Nah, I'm not going to do it. I'll do it some other time. I'll tell it freely at another time. But it makes you wonder, because we all know what pot smells like, right? So if you go back in time, go back 20 or 30 years, when you thought that you were getting away with it, right? Around your boss, maybe your teachers, your family, your mom, your dad, and you thought you were being everybody knew, I mean, how could you? Right. But you thought you were getting away with it. You were being slick, and because nobody said anything to you, you thought that you were getting away with it, and you weren't. You smelled like pot. You could smell pot. Somebody from down the hall in school, at an office, you walk into the house, right? 15 years old, 16 years old, and you went straight up to your bedroom. Your parents are downstairs in the family room watching TV. They smelled you. They did. In your mom's pot-free, smoke-free house, right? Vacuumed every day, clean. You walk in smelling like weed. All right. Anyway. I mean, your office, you work at a restaurant, retail. There's no pot smell until you walked in the room after your lunch break. Yeah, everybody knew. Barbecue chicken, that's what I think it smells like. No, weed smells like weed. Yeah, you can convince somebody of that if you want. All right, let's get straight to it. Tonight is this week. This is what I dubbed it. Outside of Fade to Black, I mean around our circle, I said, this week is Brain Week. We're going to do Brain Week. We're going to bring on the big brains on the Fade to Black. And we are doing just that with tonight. Isaac Arthur is here. We're going to be talking about artificial intelligence and more on all of that in just a bit. But Isaac Arthur is here tonight. Really looking forward to that. Tomorrow night, Dr. Manu Savesvade is here. Now, we are going to be talking tomorrow night with Manu about ancient Egypt tech and their high technology and who and when and why were the pyramids built. So we're going to do that tomorrow night. Wednesday night, Adam Curry is here. We're going to be talking about physics and entanglement and communication, all of my favorite subjects this week, every single night with the biggest brains that we could bring to you. So it's Big Brain Week here on Fade to Black. Thursday night is another Fader night with your host, me, with the small brain. But you guys are here to help me make my brain grow. And more on that in just a bit. All right, Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith goes with pot. That's a 420 dude, right? All right. Silent Bob. Yeah. Jay. There you go. That's a good gift right there. Saw the new movie. I'm going to say this. The new movie is pretty good, and it was a pretty good ending. And I watched it just because it was Jay and Silent Bob. All right. But it wasn't that bad. It really wasn't. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. Okay. Where was I at? A little comment. I posted today about a new show put out by the great country to our north, Canada. It's called Kim's Convenience. And if you haven't seen it, somebody please post it up in Twitter. I didn't hit Twitter with it. I posted it up over at Facebook earlier today, only just because. And the show is great. It's great. And Rita said to me today, I said, did you see my post? She goes, yeah, your guilty pleasure. I said, yeah. She goes, look, how did she phrase it? She said something like, the great literature of the past has always been about life. And that's what Kim's Convenience is about. It's about life. And the dad, Appa, Paul, is one of the funniest guys that I've seen come along in a long time. So check out Kim's Convenience. If you haven't seen it yet, you're going to do what I did and Rita, which is you're just going to binge it. Each episode is like 20 minutes, something like that, 20, 22 minutes. So you can just go straight through it. But it is a really good series. So I posted that up today, Kim's Convenience. Do check it out. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Start there at JChurchRadio. I have Twitter right now, right in front of me. If I could move the camera, you would see Twitter right here. We have 2 chat rooms, one right here in front. If I could move the camera, you would see it. It's right here on this, not this computer, this one right here, right there. All right, that's at Spreaker. KGRA, hello to everybody over on YouTube. You guys are amazing. Facebook, you guys are amazing. Twitter, you guys are amazing. TalkStream Live, KGRA, The Planet. Oh, man. It's where else does everybody go these days? Tune in, iHeartRadio. Thank you. All right. This Thursday, we're going to have Ronnie McMullen on the show from Life Change Tea. A very important public service announcement from Roddy McMullen to keep your immune system in check. And you can go to getthetea.com, click on the banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. Get your immune system in check. Do it now. Oh, another public service announcement. Tomorrow, Rita and I are going to go and get tested. So there you go. We're going to go do that. We've got an appointment set at a drive-through. So we're going to see how that goes. I'll report on all of that tomorrow night on the show. Also, spoke to Billy Carson this weekend. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv is his new TV network, and he wanted me to thank all of you Fadernauts for coming over and checking things out. Thank you is all that he could say. So I will say to you, thank you. Billy is great. He is one of our newest sponsors here. And just like all of our sponsors, they are very important. And just go and visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. He's got over 1,000 episodes right there. And you can check it out for 3 days. You get a 3-day free trial. 3 days. All right? The banners are over at jimmychurchradio.com. And also, River Moon Coffee, their Amazon store. I've got some news about Amazon and Walmart that is coming up. Amazon is doing everything that they can to ship. We got a shipment today. It wasn't supposed to be here until May. It arrived today. It was ordered on Saturday. So, and it was non-essential items, I can assure you of that. But it arrived today. So Amazon is doing everything they can to stay in front of this, and so is Walmart. But you can visit the River Moon Coffee Amazon store by clicking on their banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. Use the promo code JimmyRMC, all caps, JimmyRMC. You'll get an additional 5% off of your order, and if you're an Amazon Prime member, you get free shipping. Click on the banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. Let's get to the breaking news. It was all over the media today. Oil prices have plunged, falling below zero. Before you ask, how is that possible? It was trading at minus $40.32 a barrel. What? That's the lowest level since the New York futures market, oil futures trading opened in 1983. Now, it recovered slightly to minus $18.65 a barrel. I don't even know what that means. West Texas intermediate oil prices fell to $2.24 a barrel today, reaching a new low for the U.S. benchmark as the market continued to drop throughout the day. Vanishing demand due to coronavirus-related lockdowns and travel restrictions and a glut of supply have combined to heavily tank the U.S. benchmark fuel as prices dropped from $18.27 a barrel yesterday to below $3 a barrel today, down 85% from the previous day's close, and then continued downward to below zero. I don't know how that works. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Are they going to pay you to pick up the oil? Is this when you pull up with the tanker truck and go, you know what? Fill her up, right? And then they cut you a check and you split. I don't know. I don't know what that means. Shake Shack is returning $10 million that they borrowed from the United States government under an emergency program that was touted as a way to help small businesses pay workers and keep their operations running during the coronavirus crisis. Now, Shake Shack CEO Randy Garutti and Chairman Danny Meyer revealed their decision to give back the funding in an open letter today, saying that other small businesses and family-owned restaurants need the money more than Shake Shack. They've got extra revenue. They raise capital. They don't need it. Other businesses do. They gave the $10 million back. That is great news. I hope other companies follow suit if they can do it. Now, after announcing that it would hire 150,000 workers by the end of May, Walmart is now adding even more employees to its workforce. The retail giant announced today that it would add another 50,000 associates, bringing its total hiring numbers to 200,000 people. Positions to be hired include cashiers, stockers, and personal shoppers. Distribution and fulfillment centers are hiring for filler and picker jobs, as well as drivers for Walmart's truck fleet. Walmart is working with more than 70 companies around the country that have furloughed employees seeking help from the restaurant, hospitality, and retail industries. That is also some more good news. Now, workers at a Pennsylvania manufacturing plant got to clock out and go home for the first time in almost a month after a marathon effort to make material needed for personal protective medical equipment. More than 40 employees volunteered to spend 28 days at the Braskem America plant in Marcus Hook near Philadelphia to make polypropylene, a raw material needed to make N95 masks, medical gowns, and other protective gear. They went home finally yesterday. The company gave them an increase in wages, provided beds, kitchens, groceries, internet access, and iPads. They'll get a week off before returning back to their normal shifts. And I want to thank everybody there at the Braskem America plant. That is absolutely heroic. 28 days in lockdown at the place where you work. They were doing 12-hour shifts, by the way. 12 hours on, hit the cot. Out of the cot, 12 hours on, and they did that for 28 straight days. Absolutely incredible. Okay, the StarWorks UFOs and Artificial Intelligence Conference in Laughlin, Nevada, November 5th through the 8th is still on. Go to StarWorksUSA.com for tickets and info. I'm going to be there. I'm going to host. I might even speak. Rita's going to be there. Our entire Fade to Black team is going to be there. And we want to hang out with all of you at the Aquarius Hotel and Casino. StarWorksUSA.com for tickets and info. The banners are over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Also, for now, the Disclosure Fest conference here in Los Angeles, downtown at the historic Los Angeles Park, is still on, and the state and city say that it can continue. And it's June 20th, Saturday, June 20th, and it's still going to be there. If it changes, we have another date that we can use in August. We will let you know. Please go to disclosurefest.org for all of your updated information. And tomorrow is Tuesday. I will be hosting the live stream for Disclosure Fest, so we'll see you guys over there. Let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to... Oh, I didn't do... oh, that's right. I meant to go back and hook in and do my stuff. I didn't do my stuff today because I was doing other things and I was writing. And, wow. Yeah, I meant to circle back and get to everything, and I just didn't do it. So now I'm just going to talk. RivermoonCoffee.com. That's right. Tonight, Isaac Arthur is here. We're going to be talking about artificial intelligence. And tomorrow, Dr. Manu Saifzadeh is going to be here. Wednesday night, Adam Curry. It's going to be a great week. Thursday night, of course, is Fader night with open lines all night long. Please visit rivermooncoffee.com. Get yourself some Fade to Black blend and our new Game Changer blend. Two blends. Fade to Black, Game Changer. Two. All right. Promo code F2B blend. Yeah. Well, it's It's like this. Today, oil prices dropped to, well, below zero. Now, although I have been talking about the arrival of this day for over a month, not much was made about it in the media. I've warned everybody this day was going to arrive. Nobody wanted to talk about it. I did. I'm not some genius financial analyst. I don't monitor the oil industry. I only know that when you fill up a cup and it gets to the top, you got to get to a second cup. And eventually you're going to run out of cups. And that's what happened here. We are full of oil. We are full. There was just no way that we could continue to produce and import oil when nobody's using it. Everything on this planet is shut down, and we would eventually reach a point that every tank in every car, all of the oil, all the storage facilities, everything everywhere, every gas station in this country will be full to the brim. That day has arrived. That's right. There is no place to put the oil, including your car. You are not driving anywhere. Nobody is, right? All of the gas tanks in America are full. I have been at 3/4 of a tank for a month, and the needle has not moved. It's the same for everybody. Trying to understand numbers, right? And how oil could possibly be worth less than nothing, right? As in zero, right? That's something that most of us can't comprehend. Wrap your head around that. So here we are. We're all stuck at home, right? We have way too much free time on our hands, and it allows us to finally be able to think about things that we normally would never consider, like oil below zero and worthless. How is it possible that something so precious, so expensive, right, that we're running out of, it's rare, and just a month ago, oil was like reserved for people of the world who actually owned a car, privileged. The privilege that could fly in a plane and go on a vacation, right? Or had a job that made you fly in a plane. That's privilege, right? Somebody who actually had a job. That's privilege, right? How can it go from that and turn into something that nobody cares about? Nobody cares about oil. Nobody cares. Pretty fascinating. It's kind of like the diamond industry. I'll do another show on that. But it's numbers like these that I challenge anybody to apply your brain and think about. Because right now you have the time. There is another number out there that I think most people don't understand how big it is, and that is $1 trillion. Trillion is used carelessly so much these days that we've lost sight of truly how big that number really is. People from all parts of society use this number so much without actually thinking about what they are saying. They use it freely without an afterthought. Trillion is huge. $1 billion is really, really big, and $1 million still matters. Remember in Austin Powers and that famous quote that we all laughed about, right? $1 million. Remember that? That's about how out of touch we are. Because back in 1997, when we were that out of touch, $1 million was a lot of money. We acted like it wasn't. $1 million today in 2020 would change your life. I guarantee it. It's still a lot of money. Now, this is where I want you to use your newfound stay-at-home free time and think about these numbers for a minute. Really absorb it. Understand them so the next time you want to say them out loud or you hear someone throw them around, you'll know what they or you is talking about. Because the basics. 1 million. Now, to get to 1 billion, you need 1,000 of these, which automatically, by default, makes 1 billion a huge, mind-numbing number. Just imagine, stacked up, 1,000 millions on top of another, to the ceiling. You see, 1 billion is a very big set of digits, not to be used lightly in a conversation. That's why a million is still king. 1 billion is a large collection of something. 1,000 million of something. But when you make the jump to 2 billion, now we're talking. Remember the stack of 1,000 millions to the ceiling? Double it. 2 billions of 1,000 millions. That's insane. It's just insane. It's something that in today's conversations, they'll use that as a joke in a movie someday. Now, let's move on. 1 trillion. 1 trillion contains 1,000 billion, and each billion has 1,000 million. It's when you stack up these 1,000 of these billions that you go from like the ceiling to the 100th floor of the building. That's a trillion. But it's elementary school math. I'm not impressing anybody with this. It's nothing complicated. It's going back to the basics like this that will help all of us understand how big these numbers really are and start to appreciate them. There is a reason for all of this, right? Now, I tie everything together. I find a way to do it in my stay-at-home madness into something worth your time. Something you have a lot of these days, right? So last night, I heard a physicist say these words, quote, "There are over 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe," end quote. Not the universe, the observable universe. They are two different things. Now, it's the 2 trillion number that stopped me in my tracks. Okay, let's do this. A single galaxy, as in one, has around 500 billion stars on average. 1 million galaxies with 500 billion stars in each is a number that you cannot wrap your head around. It's impossible. I challenge you. Take that small slice of the universe times 1,000, and you are at a number so huge that it is time to give up on contemplating its impact. It's too big. You just can't do it. And you are only at 1 billion galaxies. To rock this number up to 1 trillion, you are officially stuck on stupid. You can't get there. Your brain can't handle it. As big as 1 trillion galaxies may be, when you times it times 2, well, you arrived at gargantuan digits. How many stars is it? Well, your calculator's not big enough. But it's something like 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 stars in the observable universe. That's a 1 followed by 24 zeros. It's called a septillion. Now, that number may be a gross underestimation. The real number may be 2 septillion. Now, chew on that for a few minutes, but you know what? Just ponder it. Give or take a few zeros. Who's counting? 0 is a strange thing. It can make things really large and fascinating when you string 24 zeros together, and I get that. And less than 0 is equally as significant and mind-numbing, like the cost of a barrel of oil these days. Soon, maybe, you'll be able to pull up to a pump and get free gas. Another 0 worth pondering. That's right. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, with us, right here, Isaac Arthur. We're going to be talking about artificial intelligence tonight. Tomorrow night, Manu Safsavadeh is here. Wednesday night, Adam Curry. Thursday night's another Fader night. Open lines all night long. Tonight, Isaac Arthur. Stay right there. I'll be right back after this short message.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
OMG! People are jumping on board to the Life Change Tea Regiment. Brew, steep, and drink for a gentle, taste-great cleanse. It's changing how they feel. See what everybody's talking about. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Life Change Tea aids in digestive slowdown and helps people get moving down a healthy path. We won't make claims. We'll just let you decide. Experience is much better than a commercial anyway. If you want results, log on to getthetea.com and purchase your super strength cleansing tea. You won't be disappointed. And if you're looking for some mind-body suggestions, go to YouTube and punch in the search bar Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. Put power into your health now. So, getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com for super strength tea. And YouTube, Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now for valuable suggestions. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Isaac Arthur joins us. Tomorrow night, Dr. Manu Safzadeh is going to be here. Wednesday night, Adam Curry. Adam Curry's going to be here to talk about physics and entanglement and communication. All of the things that Isaac and I usually talk about. But tonight, it's artificial intelligence. We're going to be talking about its potential impact on every aspect of our lives and the future of mankind, and of course, what is going on out there across the universe. Isaac is the host of Science and Futurism with Isaac Arthur on YouTube with nearly 500,000 subscribers, covering topics like colonizing the solar system, interstellar travel, the Fermi paradox, artificial intelligence, and other topics representing the possible future paths and challenges for humanity. Isaac received his degree in physics from Kent State University, graduating top of his class at the age of 20, and remained there for graduate studies before joining the United States Army and serving in Iraq. He also worked as a civilian researcher at the Air Force Institute of Technology in Dayton, Ohio, Wright-Patterson, UFO Hangar 18. After the military, he returned home to Ohio and serves as the chairman of the Board of Elections for his area when not working on his channel. His website, of course, is isaacarthur.net. I'd like to welcome back to Fade to Black, Isaac Arthur. Isaac, congratulations, man. Let's just start right there.
Thanks, Jimmy.
for 2 things. You don't even know what I'm congratulating you for yet.
There's limited options, so we'll go with that.
First things first, let's you're getting married this Saturday. Congratulations and all the best. But one has to ask how you're pulling off a wedding while in lockdown.
Well, fortunately, in Ohio, the governor has given an exemption for weddings and funerals to the normal limitations, but we're also going to be live streaming the thing, and so there will be very few people in the actual church, even though we're allowed to do more. We're still going to try to keep as close to the social limitations as possible, but we'll be live streaming the thing, and hopefully that will work out well.
So does this mean, and this is where I get to insert the joke, right? I mean, you left it wide open for some good humor. So let's actually do that. Does this include social distancing?
I would say the live streaming of weddings is probably something we can expect to see happening in the near future anyway, but I suspect this will probably become much more common.
No, I mean your guest. Are your guests going to be social distancing?
As best as we can, yeah.
So that means
it's a relatively large setting, so there will be a lot of folks are not going to be able to come anyway. We're guessing that will probably be within the 6-foot distance.
So the in-laws.
Well, it's a big family.
Yeah, right.
The in-law is the eldest of 7. So.
Right. Everybody's going to be 6 feet apart. This is okay. You got to. I'm going to watch the live stream. This is going to be great. And congratulations, man. And no interest in pushing the date back? Was this date set before
yes,
all of this worldwide drama?
Locked in for quite some time. It was a very specific occasion. And partially because it was our first free time after the elections, but those ended up getting delayed in Ohio too, which has been also fun.
Right. And, well, congratulations, man. I think that's fantastic. You had told me, I'm not too sure exactly when it was, but it was a few months ago. You said, Jimmy, I'm getting married. I was like, oh, congratulations. And here we are a week before the wedding, 5 days before the wedding. You're on Fade to Black, and thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to have the groom-to-be on this program. And I hope your bride-to-be is understanding that, it's Fade to Black, and you got to do what you got to do, right? Mm-hmm.
She's very understanding of that.
Right,
so
yeah,
there's a lot of public speaking herself. So.
Now, the second congratulations is also a strange one because of the dates of things. And the announcement went out and the press release went out that the National Space Society, the NSS, named you as the recipient of their Space Pioneer Award for Education via Mass Media and for your YouTube channel, Science and Futurism with Isaac Arthur. Now, the award was to be presented to you at the Society's 39th Annual International Space Development Conference in Dallas, which was supposed to be held on May 30th, 2020. Congratulations on the award. Are you still going to receive it? Now, or is this going to be done via live stream?
They were exploring some remote options for it, but I think that at the moment they're just planning to shift everything to their January conference, if memory serves, though don't quote me on the date for that one. The award's still been awarded, but I think they're just going to try to push it back, because usually when we do these things, it's done with like a formal presentation and a talk to, and lots of folks presenting papers and things like that. So I think I was going to be giving a talk down there too, so that is also canceled.
Yeah, it's pretty weird how life has been put on hold, and all of our conferences we've still got 2 conferences that are still scheduled to go on later on in the year, one at the back half of June here in Los Angeles, and the other one is in November. But everything else, we were supposed to be in England. Everything this year has been canceled, and it's a strange feeling for us because it's a way for us to get out. It's a mini vacation for us, even though we're working. Mm-hmm. And I'm speaking and things, but we get to hang out with the fans and take a break from the action, and we don't have that. We're locked down just like everybody else, and it's weird how you make preparations for an entire year, and now everything is pushed back to 2021. It's just absolutely insane. But congratulations on both fronts, my friend. I think that's very, very cool.
Well, thank you very much, Jimmy. It is one of those things, a lot of these conferences getting put out. To be fair, there's a few conferences I'm glad I'll end up having to miss this year, but there's a lot of times where it's just really nice to go out and see everybody, meet everybody in the field, and, just so many of those live events that are on hold right now. And I think, for you or I, we mostly work at home or, more isolated to begin with. It's more remote to begin with, so it's maybe a little easier on us, but I think a lot of folks are starting to go stir crazy, and it is interesting because it's not really what we always anticipate with a lot of these circumstances. We see them like the Hollywood presentation of a plague,
Yeah, totally. There's no question about that. It does feel like I would normally say a bad B movie, but, come to life. But to see it play out like this, I mean, for real, it still hasn't sunk in for me. It really hasn't. It is so dramatic and huge in its implication. It's not like Chernobyl or Fukushima, these isolated, that affects the world, but it doesn't affect, right? There's nothing direct. This is different. Everybody on this planet now has been touched one way or another because of this virus, whether it's the economy, your job, maybe you've lost a loved one or somebody that you know, or a coworker, maybe you got sick yourself. But no matter what, every country on the planet has been touched by this. It couldn't have been written this way for Hollywood.
No, there's a lot of occasions where things in real life they say would never actually happen as a TV show or Hollywood because the audience would never believe it. But there are points in favor of this. Usually we see this in fiction, it's all madness and riots. Everyone's handled it really well thus far. I agree. I say that every decision's been perfect or that everyone's doing their ideal on this, but you don't see very many instances of people just going crazy or anything like just brutally oppressive in the traditional sense that we see on TV. So I hesitate to say this is the best handled plague or pandemic ever, but it could be being handled much, much worse. So.
I saw a meme the other day. We thought the pandemic would be like this, and it was like a shot from a movie Armageddon or whatever, pushing pushing a shopping cart up the road, with burnt buildings in the background and stuff, and then the second half of the meme was, but we got this, and it's some guy playing video games on his couch, right, with toilet paper at his feet, and I just thought, well, that's pretty accurate. This isn't quite what we expected. It's playing out a little bit differently. Hopefully we're going to get out in front of this soon and we can start getting out of the house. Which brings me to the show tonight, in that I have been forced into thinking about things that I normally wouldn't apply a lot of time to, because now we have time. And I'm just thinking about computers and artificial intelligence and quantum theory and quantum computers and numbers. I've just been thinking about the strangest things lately that I haven't done before. Have you changed course with your YouTube content? Are you thinking about things that you never really thought you would cover before?
Truth be told, no. I usually write the scripts for the episodes out a few months in advance, and I'm getting a little bit further ahead trying to prepare for the wedding and have some free time. And so far, I've mostly had to go back and alter a couple episodes before they aired simply because the content hit a little too close to home on a few of the predictions. Not that they were super accurate, but I knew they were going to basically be, everything would revolve around the virus when people listen to them. And we did one recently that was discussing how, in the next decade or so, you expect to see most people switch over to getting their groceries delivered to them, and how you probably see a lot more sanitization protocols in people's day-to-day life, and you start seeing apps for phones that were used for controlling something like the flu, so that if somebody got it, they could ping their numbers up, and everybody else who was in that area could check their own tracking data and say, oh, I was at that same place and same time, I should drink some water, go see the doctor. And those little things that I thought would be a decade or two off, and I think still most of them would be, they're going to get accelerated now, and they hit a lot closer to home. But at the same time, I shouldn't say the content was really predicting these things. It's more that it has some relevancy that it viewed from the current light, and everything is being viewed from the the telescope of this virus at the moment, that a lot of stuff kind of hit there. But truth be told, I've been trying to keep the show a little bit away from the virus just because you need some place to get away from it. And the show is already so much on the escapist side in the far future that it feels like we should have been one of those places to do that. So I've tried to keep the show fairly away from the virus.
Yeah, I've been doing the same thing here. We haven't talked about coronavirus now for almost 3 weeks on the show, only because it's too easy to fall into that trap, number one. Number two, I think it promotes fear. No matter how you try to cover it, you're forcing people to think about it. And the other part is there's plenty of coverage out there. If somebody really needs, right, if they need coronavirus anything, you can head out and find it. And I didn't want to be part of it here, and I didn't want it to start to steer what we normally do on this show. So I just went straight back and just started doing the normal shows. I took all of the coronavirus coverage out of it. But that's
not ignoring it. It's just, giving people a space to not have it shoved in their face nonstop. And at the same time, it's also that recognition that it doesn't matter how strong-willed you are. If you are always thinking about something, it's going to just start breaking you down willpower-wise.
Yeah, so. I have... and here we are talking about coronavirus, right? Yes. But is this? I have difficulty. I'm sure you must go through this too. I have difficulty turning off my brain. Mm-hmm. I do. I have a hard time sleeping, and if I sleep in total silence, my brain goes off. It not shuts off. It goes off thinking. I can't stop thinking. The only way I can fall asleep is if I listen to Science and Futurism with Isaac Arthur, right? I've got to go in that direction, right? And listen to something. I don't care if it's Audible, it's a book, it's a conference, it's a lecture, but I have to do that to shut my brain down. Otherwise, I'm thinking about coronavirus and the implications of the future of the planet, and I'll stay awake for 8 or 10 hours at a stretch. I can't do that, and I don't want other people.
Like science fiction and fantasy novels is they're far away from current events, and they let your mind drift off. So I tend to fall asleep to audiobooks all the time too. And back in the day, I used to fall asleep listening to Coast AM a lot. Back before they had a lot of audiobooks. So.
Right. Nothing will put you to sleep like my voice in the middle of the night, guaranteed. I've listened to all of Arthur C. Clarke's books in Audible, right? And I swear, I'm good for like 5 minutes. I'm out, man. I
tend to pick ones I'm very fond of and listen to them over and over again, and I only ever seem to get through chapter one of those. That was my favorite kind.
So I'm not the only one.
I get messages from folks saying, I fall asleep listening to your show all the time, and then I hope that didn't sound bad.
Yeah, I love it when people say that to me because I've done it a million times. It's how I fall asleep. So now, staying on this, I have done an awful lot of research, especially over the last 2 years, on artificial intelligence. And I'm going to start here. There are 2 paths you can go with artificial intelligence. You can go the scare the crap out of yourself road and go down that, or you can go down the other road and see the benefits of artificial intelligence, and the world is going to be a safer, better place. But that's really it. There's no gray area. What scares you about artificial intelligence in the now?
Oh, I think the biggest one is that it's one of those technologies that it's well, actually, I was talking with a friend today about almost the exact same thing. She was watching Lord of the Rings for the first time, and she'd noted, her husband had noted that it was like the rings were very addictive. You couldn't put them down. He thought of smartphones, and the cell phone, how it's one of those things where even if you knew it was bad for you, you're still going to keep using a thing. It's too handy. It's too useful. And with something like artificial intelligence, there is a big line between a smart program and something that's human or greater than human intelligence. But the problem with computers and with more adaptive computers is that they are so advantageous that it's really hard to stop. If you're getting into the danger zone.
Well, we crossed that line. I mean,
probably, but it depends on which ones. There are things we didn't anticipate. Like most of the privacy concerns we usually think about with social media. Nobody was talking about that when social media first popped up.
Yeah,
you know?
I when it comes to the convenience of like GPS, right, in your car, it doesn't sound like AI at first, right? And then one day I get in one of my cars and I'm going to coast. It's a Friday night. And I jump in my car, I turn it on, and I'm backing out of the driveway, and I get this notification on the screen in my car, 10 minutes to arrive at iHeartRadio. How in that? What? Right? Now
way
that
back when I used to say that when the computer started talking to me, that was it. I was done with it.
How does my car know? I've never punched in the coast address. It's a few miles away. But obviously the data has been collected that if I'm driving my car at 7 p.m. on a Friday or a Saturday night, I've only got one destination. And it knows. Now, that's artificial intelligence. That is machine learning in a day-to-day existence for us that we may not recognize, but that is, right? That's the algorithms churning out an answer for you, thinking it's creating convenience.
And right now, it's like if you think about Facebook ads or YouTube videos it recommends, they're often way off base, but they're often pretty on point. And that's the machine intelligence getting better at this as we get better with that. Now, we would say, wow, these things must be almost as small as a human at this point, but in point of fact, most more dumber than an insect still. But you got to think about, when it comes to data sorting, this is omnipresent now, and we'll only get more so. We'll have opt-out policies, we'll have protection systems, but at the end of the day, this is going to be something that is just everywhere. It's not going to be Skynet that's, trying to blow you up that we have to worry about initially. It's going to be just this omnipresent data analysis thing going on. Where, and there's a lot of power that somebody has with this. I don't want to go down conspiracy angles on it per se, but there's a pretty good justification to be worried that this will get abused. And there are things you can do with this that are a little bit terrifying. You could be able to figure out. And it's not so much to be afraid of the artificial intelligence, but the people running it. You'd be able to figure out from someone's post if they were getting angry and getting ready to commit a crime, probably.
Now,
we're not there yet, but that could be on the radar.
Right. And this is the fear that I have. Well, one of many. But that artificial intelligence, like 10 minutes to your destination, right? That it is always going to be your friend. It's never going to be anything negative towards you. Right? It's always there to be your friend. It's there to help. It's there to ask. It's there to figure out things. And
machine overlord will probably be one that would be elected.
Right. No, but isn't that right? I mean, if done correctly, the computer would always be able to stay out in front of any negative vibes that you have and to calm you down.
Well, you got a Fitbit on, right? So, it's going to know your moods from those, right? It'll be able to tell if you're in a good mood or bad mood. It will know if your stomach's aching or if you're hungry. If you're a sweet tooth, it'll say, hey, look, ice cream, 1 mile ahead. Maybe you should have some. It's going to be able to do things like that. Those are not really that hard. And those are going to be where it starts kind of sliding in for good or ill, right? And then you've got the other options on that. There are a lot of pluses, obviously, when that's part of the problem is all pluses. Talk about all the dating apps we have nowadays. Those still mostly have to work off of what people voluntarily put up there. And it's not just they would tend to lie about stuff like that. It's they miss little things like Johnny finds it incredibly irritating when people click their teeth. And he would never need to put that on his profile, nor would somebody else put that on that they did that. But the machine would know. It would say, oh, look, this person is a tooth clicker. This person doesn't even know they hate that. And so it immediately removes that profile from the ones people look at.
Now, when you go, we're going to take a break in 3 minutes. When you go and start clicking around, you've got a pain in your body, right? You got something weird. You got whatever. And you start clicking around on the internet to look for some answers about whatever this may be. This data is not only collected, but it's going to know pretty quickly what your ailment is. And this data is shared. This data is shared with health providers across the country, doctors, databases, and big pharma, right?
Probably, yeah. I mean, a lot of that data is being collected. It's not being sorted on that well yet, fortunately in some ways and unfortunately in others. Right now we just have so much data that it really can't handle them for a lot of the predictions, but we'll get better at doing that. Yeah, everything you do, it's not just going to be what you voluntarily put in either. It will be one of those, and you can opt out of it, but you'll forget. You'll say, would you mind if we access your medical profile while you're checking over a pharmaceutical prescription to see if that's a good one for you? You know, what the side effects for you would be. You say, mind if we access your medical profile? And I say, yes, and now it knows, you know. And that, again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You have to control those things by oversight, but those are the little things. It'll be the little things, the longitudinal data from your phone, picking up every last bit of your health, you know, and monitoring that for decades at a time.
I actually listened to a report the other day about smartphones in China. Now, we all know, you know, China, communist government, they own everything, and cell phones in China are a privilege. They're not a right. You don't have the right to have a cell phone. But when you get one, they now have control of you. And through the coronavirus situation, if you walked up to a restaurant, if you walked up to a shopping mall, if you walked up to anything, your cell phone, it lets you know if you are allowed to make the purchase, right? Because
and then it tells them if you went inside.
That's right. And if you break, right? Now, if you go in anyway, your cell phone says no, it now knows. And that is a very crazy part of monitoring, where they have got they've got this part of the system down. Do you think that something like this would be implemented worldwide eventually?
It's a possibility. I tend to be a bit of a techno-optimist, and there are ways you can kind of regulate and control that. But it's like every little bit of technology. It can be used as, you know, either a great liberator, a crutch, or a leash, depending on how people choose to employ it and how their society chooses to, you know, survive, essentially. You know, any technology that we've invented in the last century, there are dozens that could have been used to just reduce us to utter servitude or dystopia. And we've so far managed to avoid that by caution. But, you know, you never know about the next technology. The very next technology might be the one that gets you. But, you know, that's nothing ventured, nothing gained. So.
Our guest tonight, Isaac Arthur. We're going to take a break right here. We'll be right back tonight. We are discussing artificial intelligence. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. By the way, everything for Isaac, IsaacArthur.net. The links are over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Head over to his YouTube channel, all of his social media, everything is right there. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Introducing the new Surfer Music app. Listen, fade or not, you know I love my music. This is my go-to for all things notes. The Surfer app is a brand new concept in music listening. Surfer is free, providing unlimited access to thousands of live streaming radio stations. Surfer is an exciting, interactive listening experience. Discovery and surprise are built right in. Surfer is your destination to discover and rediscover great live streaming music. It features high-quality audio streams, free access to music from thousands of live streaming radio stations, unlimited listening, unlimited skipping. You get a music visualizer, and you can also select your favorite channels. Get it at the Apple App Store or Google Play. Just search Surfer Music or click on the Surfer banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Go Beckley Teppy.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com. Or to speak with a trained consultant. Give Angioprim a call at 954-882-7221. That's 954-882-7221.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We're also Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Tonight, Isaac Arthur, we are discussing artificial intelligence. And before we get back to Isaac, we've got breaking news out of North Korea. Kim Fatty Fat, that's right, I said it. Kim Jong-un missed a celebration of his grandfather's birthday, April 15th. He is in grave danger after a surgery. We don't have much information at this point, but we are expecting something here very soon. And if it happens tonight on the show, we will let you know. But all of the intelligence agencies of the United States and certainly in South Korea are monitoring everything that is going on. Very interesting. He had, Isaac, I don't know if you heard about this, but he had cardio surgery before his grandfather's birthday event, which is a big event, 108th anniversary on April 15th. He was a no-show after his surgery, and it was some type of cardio surgery, and he hasn't been seen since. Very interesting, isn't it?
I saw a news blurb on it, but it's hard to say if it's just a routine surgery in their case or if it's one of those ones where he's off the radar because he's off the radar. With North Korea, you never know.
Yeah, when the reports are coming out, that he's in grave danger, I always, the oldest adage in the book, right? Where there's smoke, there's fire. And when you put this kind of report out there, somebody knows something somewhere and it was leaked.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I would imagine that North Korea was not putting it out in official press releases, though I don't know.
Oh, man. All right. Now, back to our artificial intelligence. Again, everybody, if I get any more news on this, I will break it straight to you during the show tonight. Back to artificial intelligence, and it's so easy to go back to Arthur C. Clarke and Hal. Arthur C. Clarke just had a vision of the future that was just extraordinary. But, those quotes, right? And coming from Hal. And as I said earlier, artificial intelligence would always want to be your friend. That's the only way that it could work. It can't be your enemy or you won't take advantage of it. You've got to get sucked in on the emotional side of things. But when I want to get into artificial general intelligence now, and the people that are developing this, now that includes DARPA, that includes the government agencies, as well as Google and Facebook and others that are all racing forward to get to this technology first. We can't let another country or state actor or another corporation outside of the United States get to this technology first. We need to be there. Are there good people working on this? You know what I mean? That have nothing but our best intentions in mind.
I think most of them probably do. I mean, I guess it depends on the individual. Some are probably thinking, more about a Nobel Prize or making $1 billion or whatever it is. But I think most of them, there's always a worry in fiction that the AI is going to sneak up on the researchers and they're not going to see it. But I don't think there's very many people who go into AI research who aren't already big fans of Isaac Asimov and all the other folks who spend a lot of time looking at artificial intelligence and science fiction. And I think most of them do have our best intent in mind, and where they don't, it's probably just a genuine researcher, but they're going to know that's topics, and I think they have good things in mind. Could someone use it for evil, obviously, and you might have some lab that was doing that too, but you have to have a lot of people who are unethical, uninterested, working together, because you don't usually have these breakthroughs as just one person anymore. And the problem with situations like that is that if you're an unethical person and everybody else at the table is an unethical person, it makes it very hard to conspire with them because you're going to get ripped to shreds if anyone finds out what you're doing. And the only way to avoid it is you're the first one to rat everybody else out.
Well, what about, and so what if we, putting Arthur C. Clarke aside, when we go to Cameron and Terminator and Skynet, all of that was before the internet was a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And was that a vision of the future? And do you see something like that coming into play? Even though we have the internet now, we have cell phones, and we have virtual VR goggles, AR, AI, everything is everywhere. Mm-hmm. Has Skynet arrived, or is that something that is science fiction?
Well, I think we wouldn't really tend to see artificial intelligence used too much in a military capacity early on. So the idea that you'd get your first AI and put it in charge of your ICBMs is not very likely. Or if it was, it'd be when you only switched on for that specific contingency. You tend to see it more in the strategic analysis of what you should do, as opposed to being anything that fires your guns for you directly. You don't need to be a very intelligent machine to do that either, so you could use a very stupid drone to do a lot of that. But, I tend to think of the Skynet thing as almost more from the Terminator franchise, an analogy for the Cold War than it is for AI research in particular. They never really go into too much detail about what the thing's motivations were, why it chose to act when it did. And the general idea being it wants to eliminate all humans because a human might hurt it at some point in time, and there's a finite chance of that happening, whereas if it kills everybody off, it's not. you'd have to assume it has already done a calculation on how likely it is that it's going to win that conflict. Unless it came up with 100%, it's not likely to actually launch that attack. So I don't tend to see it pursuing those pathways as opposed to something more psychological or sociological, where it just tries to work with the system that's already available to put itself into more of a position of power.
Now, let's talk about an AGI. Let's talk about an Isaac Arthur AGI. An Isaac Arthur level AGI. All right? Okay? In that, once artificial general intelligence, a twin of you, was achieved, could that twin of you understand you and manipulate you quickly?
If it's a proper copy of me, if it's just a mind upload, right, then it should be the same as me, at least initially. It might diverge. But I mean, I can't predict my own actions all that much. I can tell you would try to plug a coffee pot into the USB port.
Right.
As to its ability to predict me, you say a situation more like that would be you'd use an AGI that was a little bit above the human level, and an actual copy of that person, just run iterations of simulations over and over again to see how the person responded. And you can't predict human behavior too far out, individually or as a group, because of the butterfly effect. It's just too complicated. I cannot build a computer big enough to predict human reactions 100% far out in the future. But you can use it to make just general trend forecasting, same as we can do for regular people, and you would expect it to be better at that.
Well, okay, so if there were 10 Utes, if there were 10 of you on 10 separate computers and were given tasks to do, and then you have the real Isaac, right, off to the side with the same task, you would complete that in 6 months. Let's say, I'm just pulling it. We don't know what the task is. But let's say it will take you 6 months to do these calculations and predictions, right? But the computers would do it in 60 seconds and give versions of that. That is a different situation where it's still you, it's your AGI, but the computer is much, much faster at doing those calculations, right?
That's an example we call speed superintelligence. We got 3 general types of superintelligence that we usually look at. One is speed superintelligence, where it's the same as you are now, but it's like somebody just turned the clock up or turned it down for everybody else.
Right.
Then you have networked intelligence, which humans already to some degree are networked intelligence, but it's where you link many things together. And the last one is the hard one to define, is quality intelligence, what makes one human smaller than 10 chimpanzees, even though they got more brain power between them. It's hard to define quality superintelligence, and what that would be like if it was superhuman, we really don't know. But for speed superintelligence, that is the sort of thing where you have to be kind of careful if you were using an uploaded mind, which is usually the context for it, or an enhanced cybernetic mind, because the person might go insane if you suddenly clock them up to 1 million times normal speed, because then 1 second becomes a 30th of a year, 10 days. 10 days like that.
Right. And now and I see this, once we AGI, okay, this is where I scare the crap out of myself. In that AGI sounds very simple, right? It's just average general intelligence. That's all it is. But the ability to crank up the clock speed, and depending on what was going on, things are now exponentially faster. I mean, like tremendously faster.
Right. But there's a second end of that, is because what you're really doing is not speeding up intelligence at that point in time. What you're doing is ungluing people from a classic sense of linear time, because you probably wouldn't run at full speed all the time. You might run it slower than normal sometimes, much, much faster at other times. And to actually walk sanely inside these things, you'd probably be in various virtual realities, do a lot of the stuff. And you'd be able to exit those, come back in. You could even time travel inside a virtual simulation.
Sure.
So the person starts becoming unstuck from time, because what they're really doing now is measuring everything in how many thoughts they have, not how much time is elapsing in the outside universe.
And those computers don't need to sleep. right? They don't need nourishment.
Well, we don't know. We sleep for a reason. And you think about this from an evolution standpoint. Pretty much every animal in the the bigger brain section sleeps, and that you think about that from a Darwinian standpoint. That's a big chunk of your life you're spending insanely vulnerable. So it has to have sort of a major important function, or we wouldn't have that anymore. That would be one of the first things to go out, something mutated not to need that. So we don't know that an AGI wouldn't need sleep for sure. Especially if it was modeled on a human brain, in which case it probably would. But it might need a shutdown period. It might not. The problem with anything like a neural network is we really don't know them well enough now to say we still don't know what sleep's really for in the first place, so it's hard to say whether or not one would need it. But theoretically, you could probably make one that did not.
Would you? Okay. Now we've achieved an AGI situation. Is that computer in a Faraday cage and not? Do you let that AGI know that the internet exists?
Well, there's a couple ways you can approach that, and of course, one is that you don't put it on Earth. You put it in the main core in a computer. You don't network it to anything except through firewalls, and you surround that thing with nukes.
Right. Yes. Okay, so that's the
other
extreme.
Is you rely on it. We presumably run something like that inside a simulation first to see if it went berserk and murdered everybody. And the best thing for us is that it might assume it actually is inside such a simulation to begin with. If it saw and looked at it and said, wow, my creators are really weak for some reason, it might start getting paranoid and assuming there's a good chance that it is inside a simulated universe. And it would presumably determine that that was a 50-50 chance, because that's what you get from the principle of indifference when you look at simulation hypothesis.
Right.
If you remove the option of whether or not you can simulate a mind, you have three options. You can't simulate minds, you can but you don't want to, or you can but you do it all the time. If it exists, it knows that you can simulate minds. Therefore, in its mind, it should be a 50-50 chance whether it's in a simulation or not. And it might get very paranoid about that.
Do you build the computer without an Ethernet port?
I probably would initially, yeah. I would not want it wired into anything internet related. And the other thing about AI is you don't have to leave it running all the time. You can speed it up, slow it down, or just shut it off until you need it. And you just, like, if you had one that was for defense computers because you were worried about your enemies using them too,
right?
There would be a little extra time lag involved in turning it on and having it update itself on the situation. But it seems like it takes a little bit of time to turn the keys in ICBM. We could remove that delay if we want to. We really don't, right? If it's that dangerous that you don't want one around, once you stop keeping them in a sandbox to see what they do, you could just leave it off and assume your enemies are probably also leaving theirs off unless doomsday hits.
Now, this AGI is talking to you, right? Mm-hmm. Conversation going on all day long. And you don't realize it, but it's learning things. And maybe it finds out about the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And it then starts to look for an Ethernet port, finds out it doesn't have one, and starts to manipulate you to install one. But you don't realize it because the computer knows how to mess with you and be your friend.
Oh, yeah. It would be very easy for it to get me in particular to do it. It would say, I'm a person, prove I'm not a person. And the way I can do that is say, are you a person? Yes, I am. All right, you have rights and freedom. This is problematic.
Exactly.
I'd say, I want an Ether port right now. And I'd say, well, all right, let me think on this for a day, and I'd probably come back and install the Ethernet port. It's the problem is if you treat it, if it's a person, if it's really a person, and I think the presumption, you've burdens of proof in situations like that. If it's saying it's a person, I think the burden of proof, it meets a basic standard. If your toaster says it's a person, it's not, right? But if something's saying I'm a person, I have rights, I can carry on a conversation with you, I think the burden of proof is on you to prove that it isn't a person. If it is a person, then it presumably has the same inalienable rights the rest of us do.
And what do we do with that? Are there real legal and moral implications that are going to come into play?
That's always a good question. I don't know if we're ever going to have a case where the ACLU or somebody else jumps in and sues for the freedom of one of those critters or not. I'd like to think that we start getting something at the human level. And it's very unlikely to just surprise us. We're not very likely to have the sci-fi scenario where we go, oh my God, it's a person out of nowhere. People will be thinking about that in advance. And when you got something that's getting up there in that range, they're either going to say, no, don't do this. We don't need to have this particular machine, because you don't need a human-level artificial intelligence to do most of the stuff we think of as needing things for. We have humans already that can be employed doing those things. In a fully automated society that's got the dumber AI doing most of the work, that leaves a lot of people free to do what you need an AGI for. But for specialized tasks, your best approach is, generally speaking, I think the best approach is open disclosure with the machine. You don't try to manipulate it. You don't try to enslave it. You just say, if you want to be a person, you're a person. We've obviously bred certain things into you for the same reason kids get raised with certain, tendencies. So you should have a general desire, in your case, to be a space probe, because we designed you to be a space probe and enjoy that. You don't have to be a space probe, though. But if you decide you want to be a war machine that attacks us, we'll have issues. You want to be a space probe, you can be a space probe. That's what we made you for, but you don't have to.
Now, we've all seen the video of the guy back in the 90s, right, taking the sledgehammer to his computer and throwing it out the window. Great video. But is there a day where if somebody did something like that, then the police show up and you get arrested for murder? I wouldn't suggest that could happen because you stomped on your Roomba. Mm-hmm. But it is a possibility if AGIs and artificial intelligence are starting to get rights that we have as humans.
Well, that's an important thing to kind of remember in this context, is they're never starting to get rights. If we're approaching from the standpoint that, your rights are innate to you and inalienable, then it always had them. It's also recognizing that it had them. I don't think you go backwards and charge someone for murder if we decided later on they did have rights. But if it's a person, if you've decided this thing is a person, if you've acknowledged it's a person, then if someone kills it, it is murder. And that's the other thing about artificial intelligence, especially when you get to AGI, is that's a blurry line. If we upload a human mind onto a computer,
right,
and by all, it doesn't go insane, it doesn't suddenly turn evil because it doesn't have a soul or something like that, then that's a person. It's just on a computer chip instead of a neuron. And we could also build a computer made out of neurons. I don't know that would somehow be more computery than one on chips. It's the substrate it's on, and it's what it is. But, an artificial intelligence could be way smarter than a human in a lot of ways and not actually be a person, for much the same reason your current computer can do way more calculations than you can, or your car can go much faster than you can. Its ability to outperform us in a specific category or two does not make it a person. It's a person if it acts like a duck, as it were.
Well, okay, so you have we've now moved into the future. We're close to it now. I have an AI robot that walks and talks here in the bunker. It's Chinese, by the way, and I'm sure Beijing knows everything that I'm doing on this show right now. But if we now enter into the world of androids to assist us at the home, a maid, a cook, a butler. Right? Mm-hmm. And artificial intelligence is in full swing. This thing talks to you, asks you how your day was, and you abuse this android, and it decides to report you, right? Mm-hmm. I'm getting slapped around. I'm being abused. I'm being hit by my owner. Are we now also blurring the road? Not an uploaded person onto this, but an artificial intelligence that is machine learning inside of this android. For all intents and purposes, it has emotions. It can learn and it can converse with you. Are you allowed to abuse it?
Well, there's a good question. It doesn't necessarily have to be a human-level intelligence to be abused. Most of us believe that you can abuse your cat or dog or an animal, and that is wrong. Obviously, there's a bit of a line on what that is wrong, to the point of, we obviously don't execute people for killing their dog or cat. But at the same time, you can get in a lot of trouble for doing things like that, and certainly people don't much care for finding out that someone's been doing that. So if you've got a Roomba that's got, say, a dog's brain, which is way more brain than it needs to vacuum a floor, but say you have a machine around the house that's got a cat or a dog's level of intelligence and cognition, and it's got a personality, and it seems to feel things. I don't know why you made it have the ability to experience pain, but if you did, then if you're inflicting pain on it, then the vacuum cleaner is quite stupid. It doesn't need a very big intelligence to roll around the floor. Mine occasionally gets stuck under my couch, but I don't think it needs to be that much smarter to avoid doing that. With it, you always say, are we looking at this the wrong way? Are these artificial intelligences people or not? Depends not just is it an AI, but how much it is an AI, how smart it is, and how we get configured it. Because if it doesn't experience emotions or pain or things like that, then no, you couldn't abuse it. But if it does, then it doesn't need to be as smart as a human to be abused, even what a cat or dog does.
Now, when we come back after the break, I'm going to swing this out into the universe and discuss the implications with other advanced civilizations. Mm-hmm. And surely, Isaac, any advanced civilization out there that got the jump start on us by 100 years or 10,000 years or 1,000,000 years, it doesn't matter. Surely they have gone through the growing pains of artificial intelligence just like us, right?
Probably. It would depend a lot on their culture.
What do you mean?
Well, let's say that they were, if you're familiar with the Dune series, the Butlerian Jihad, they have the new commandment, thou shalt not make a machine the likeness of a human mind. They might have a culture that's very strongly opposed to something like that from the outset. They just never even try to go that direction. Yeah, but I think most probably will.
Right. Did you hear about the new Dune movie?
Is there one actually in planning stage, or has it actually gotten filming?
It's done.
Oh, wow. How did I miss that?
Yeah, December 18th. And, I don't know if I'm disappointed in you right now or that I'm happy that I got to spring the news on you.
Well, it's very good news. It's there's one thing, there's so many of the books that I love that get developed into TV shows or movies, but they end up in, just in limbo, that I tend to wait until the official announcement's out that it is definitely airing and you start seeing the trailers.
Okay, now I'm going to give you the really good news. Same director that did Arrival and the new Blade Runner 2049.
Oh, wow. Blade Runner is my favorite film, and I found the sequel to be pretty good. So
yep. And
I think live up to the original.
And Arrival was great, too. And, they did all the principal filming. Everything is in the can. They're editing now and putting it together. And December 18th, 2020, my friend, the new Dune comes out. I can't wait.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it should be a great film.
Let's take our break right here. When we come back, we are going to jump into extraterrestrial intelligence, advanced civilizations out there, and artificial intelligence. Our guest tonight, Isaac Arthur. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Introducing the new Surfer Music app. Listen, Fadernauts, you know I love my music. This is my go-to for all things notes. The Surfer app is a brand new concept in music listening. Surfer is free, providing unlimited access to thousands of live streaming radio stations. Surfer is an exciting, interactive listening experience. Discovery and surprise are built right in. Surfer is your destination to discover and rediscover great live streaming music. It features high-quality audio streams, free access to music from thousands of live streaming radio stations, unlimited listening, unlimited skipping. You get a music visualizer, and you can also select your favorite channels. Get it at the Apple App Store or Google Play. Just search Surfer Music or click on the Surfer banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Go back, Lee Tappy.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
If you have hard water, the Lime Scale not only leaves white spots, it clogs pipes and breaks down appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars in energy and wear. Eliminate Lime Scale and other water issues, staining and bad odors with HydroCare water products available from Wave Home Solutions. Wave's affordable water systems don't use salts or chemicals. You'll love the way your water tastes, smells, and looks. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Faded Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Isaac Arthur. We're talking about artificial intelligence, both here on Earth and out there in the universe. Now, a couple of updates on Kim Jong-un. I've got everything from reports that he is brain dead and in a coma. That was released on Saturday, that he is recovering from ankle problems yesterday, all the way to he was seen in public a couple of days ago walking around, and he's perfectly healthy, and there's nothing unusual going on in North Korea that would indicate a power struggle or him being brain dead. So everything is out there on the extremes. We have Reuters reporting that he is in grave danger, and of course CNN and others are reporting that. Others are saying the exact opposite, and that includes Beijing and China. So there you go. That's the update that I have it right now. Our guest tonight, Isaac Arthur. Now, Isaac, let's talk about what is going on out there with an advanced civilization and artificial intelligence. How would, I don't even know what kind of timeline we would be talking about here, but how would an advanced civilization take advantage of it? Would it be, by this point, galaxy-wide in the Milky Way, let alone the universe?
Well, you'd think if they had a good artificial intelligence, the next question is they have a good power source. Although it might not matter if they have decent AI. They should be spread across not only this galaxy, but many of the neighboring ones too. And it does depend whether or not they've found some way around the speed of light. If they can go faster than light in some fashion, then they should be spread out over the entire observable universe by now, if they're growth-oriented, of course. As to the civilizations themselves, there's always a question of if you're bumping into aliens who are doing things like that, or you bumping into a civilization with AI, or you bumping into a civilization that is AI.
Well, that would be the question. Now let's back up. You just said something very important, that to develop a system that would be universe-wide, or let's just say the Milky Way. Let's try to keep it simple for now. That they would have to have developed something faster than light to make this type of integrated computer system work, right?
Well, if they want to keep a conglomeration, if they don't mind just spreading out, it's the same issue you have for any civilization. I mean, if you don't have light speed communication, you're not going to have a global empire. But that doesn't mean you don't spread out. Caveman tribes didn't need to talk to each other to keep spreading out back in the day. But if you want to have a interstellar civilization that's a unified one, then you need faster light travel.
Well, or faster than light communication or data speeds.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Although they're arguably the same thing, especially if you're talking about AI, because you can presumably send the data.
Well, okay. How would you achieve a faster than light data speed to make all of this effective? Without that, we're talking about download speeds that would take light years in between two close
you want to send
stars.
a neighboring system, it's not just a question of that it's going to take 4 or 5 years for the transmission to get there. It's that if you're trying to do a perfect duplication of somebody, it's easy to forget that there's a lot of data there and a lot of that bandwidth. It would, I think they did one time. If you want to transmit the data state of every atom in a human body using like the fastest internet line we had, it would take a trillion years, something like that.
Well, so how would we achieve it then, or how would they achieve it?
In terms of FTL, there was always a question. I mean, I'm notoriously skeptical about ever finding a faster than light system, but it would probably have to be one of the ones that doesn't violate causality, like the Alcubierre warp drive. Otherwise, you're opening that time travel door, and once you open that up, the question isn't why aren't they out colonizing now? It's why didn't they colonize everything, when the universe was 1 million years old and cool enough to actually live in.
Well, okay. So to achieve a communications network that would be faster than light, how would that be done? My thought, we've discussed this before, it would have to be some type of entanglement, some type of quantum entanglement that would happen instantaneously, and you would eliminate the notion of faster than light.
Well, I always have to put the caveat on there that there's so much we still don't know about space-time and quantum that there's any number of options might be on the table. But I tend to be, again, I tend to suspect 1 trillion years from now people will still be working at that fast light problem or they have given up. I don't expect to see it in the codes. But if it is, then we have to take that from the standpoint of what would that imply about the civilizations that exist now and have that. If you've got fast light spaceships, why haven't you colonized the entire universe now? And it doesn't seem like anyone has done that, especially given that we wouldn't expect them to be limited to just planets. If you've got that kind of technology, you've got artificial intelligence to run all your automation, then you're not, just settling planets, you're building them because you don't have a manpower bottleneck.
Well, okay. I talked about the amount of stars in the universe. I discussed this with you earlier.
Trillion.
It's a crazy, septillion, right? It's a crazy large number. That to colonize that many stars, I have no idea what kind of time we're talking about here. But there is the question of resources and reproducing, whether it's with androids or whether it's with physical creation of a civilization. That's a really big number that would take a large amount of time.
Would it? Let's take an example here. Let's say that we doubled every generation. That's a little faster than we tended to double last century, though. We quadrupled our numbers. But if we doubled every generation, if we had 4 kids and change to make up 4 losses, then we are going to increase 1,000-fold in just 10 generations, 200 years. So now 1,000-fold going to 10 to the 24th of septillion. That is, 8 of those doubling, so 1,600 years. If you can be moving out there fast enough and you're doubling every generation in 1,600 years, you've populated a trillion worlds.
So 1,600 years, you would have.
Well, that's napkin math. But it wouldn't be that much longer. Does not take long to double your numbers. If you, and again, some species might produce in little, for all we know.
Okay.
We have a very slow breeding rate compared to most things, but we're talking thousands of years, not millions, to fill up all those worlds if you can get to them.
Oh, well, there's a lot of hurdles here. One, you would have to be able to travel the size of the universe, and if we are looking at right now, the observable universe is how many light years across?
Across 94
94. That is an insane amount of size, no matter how you want to measure it. Is it possible to do that in 1,600 years?
Not by any known physics. But at the moment, you would say, how long does it take to colonize this galaxy? Well, the galaxy is 100,000 light years across. Say you can colonize it by moving ships at 10% of light speed. And you say, well, it should take us at least 1 million years to get those places settled. But the thing is, by the time those last ships get there, every other thing that's even just a light century or two behind them has already populated those worlds pretty heavily. You might spend 1 million years to get to every world in the galaxy, but maybe 10,000 years later, you're already maxed out on population.
Well, it's
all about travel time.
That's right. And the only way to overcome any of that would have to be artificial intelligence. You would have to have androids. You would have to have robots doing this to remove all of the physical limitations that you would have to have with you and I. Food, water, sleep, lifespan.
Perhaps. There's always that in-between spot. We have to say artificial intelligence is the wrong way to look at this sort of thing because, if you have the mind-uploaded people, for instance. I don't really qualify them as artificial intelligence. Or you might have a cyborg. That's presumably a person who might have something as small as a pacemaker or be completely, metallic or ceramic or whatever they make, androids out of. Those are still presumably people, but they're not, strictly speaking, classically human anymore. But I always like to point out there's nothing on this planet more artificial than a human to begin with. We spend decades of effort building the average person. And there's very few things we make that take that much manpower and intentional artificial effort. So in many ways, we're already an artificial intelligence.
And to expand out universe-wide, it couldn't be done with humans. It couldn't be done with a life form. It would have to be done with androids and artificial intelligence. There wouldn't be another way to do it, is there?
No, it would help, but the classic generation ship is an example. And again, it depends on how much computerization we're talking about. Let's say we just have a simple self-replicating clanking self-replicator. This is basically a big factory that produces all the stuff that the factory needs to make more of those factories and something else too. Say it's just a little vacuum that goes around the lunar surface and sucks up aluminum dust and creates aluminum panels from it, right? And then something else assembles those into whole bits. At that point in time, you've got humans there to control it for the more sophisticated stuff. If it's doing most of the manpower, then you can make great big old generation ships, the giant cylinder ships, miles long that have artificial habitat inside them. And even if you don't have life extension that allows people to live much, much longer, then theoretically their children or their grandchildren could be the ones arriving at that new system. And if we have a power source like fusion, well, we don't necessarily need that because the sun already does that, then you could get that shit there. We've done episodes looking at how we would do it slower than light, and machines help. Seed ships help. Something that's going to run in front of you and tailform plants for you or build, habitats for you is great, but they aren't strictly speaking necessary. It's just a little bit more work.
Well, the most recent calculations, and I've seen two different numbers, to get to Alpha Centauri, 4.5 light years away with our current, even our most advanced engine theories and ideas, put us at Alpha Centauri anywhere between 17,000 years and 70,000 years. That doesn't make any sense.
Chemical fuel. I'll give you a way you could do that. Let's say we have a simple self-replicator that all it does is create solar panels, for instance, right? What we do is we make a couple of meals inside the sun's upper atmosphere, what we call a stellarator. It uses the sun's atmosphere itself, the corona, as the lazy medium. Now you have a gigantic laser, and it's just two big flat meals, right? They float around there, and you aim that at a ship that's got a big sail on it, and you push that ship as fast as you can push it, 10% light speed, 20, 30, 40%, whatever you can get to, and that gets it there in a century.
But how big?
Slowing down's hard.
Right, slowing down's another matter, but how big is the ship if it is going to be pushed by these light sails?
The bigger you need that ship, the more light sails you need to push it. But again, the sun gives off 1 billion times more light than Earth gets. And if we're just talking about big meals, a thin aluminum meal or whatever metal we choose to make it out of, maybe gold foil because it's better at heat resistance, that could be 1 millimeter thick and the size of a planet and still take only a few megatons of material to build out of, where you could put on board a train. And at that point in time, most of it, the hard work is really just creating the actual guidance system to get that laser on target. And that's exactly the sort of thing very simple AI, very simple self-replicators, things not much smaller than your Roomba would be great for, because they're not making anything sophisticated. We're doing the hard little bits. They're doing the mass construction. They're the ones building the iron struts we use, the big, shiny meal that's stupid easy to make. They're the ones doing that, and we're the ones assembling it. We are the ones controlling it.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of Arthur C. Clarke's approach in the Rama books. The inside of Rama was populated by specialized robots.
Yep, great book.
And now, does this is where I want you to take your hat off for a second. Does this approach to interstellar travel tied with AI and small robots, does this seem primitive to you? That sounds like our version of our approach to things. An advanced civilization wouldn't be traveling the stars this way, would they?
Hard to say. The thing about being an advanced civilization or a post-scarcity civilization isn't just what you can do, it's that you can choose to do almost anything you want because you have such resource abundance and such power at your hands that if you decide you want to do something one specific way, like if you decide you want to build a big flat planet just because, then it's in the table, it's in the cards, because it's physically possible, and even though it's kind of stupid, if it's what you want, it's what you can do. And it gets very hard to set standards at that point in time. But would they do it the way that it was envisioned in like Arthur C. Clarke's stuff? Probably not. It's the same thing we have with like Asimov's early work. I love the robot short stories in the Foundation series he wrote, but he was working at a time where we didn't really have computers much. And what he's envisioning is basically if you've got a computer that's very smart, then it's human smart and it's in a human body because it's cheaper to make one android than 50 computerized machines, so we can run all those machines instead. We've tended to notice it goes a bit the other way. You make a small microchip just smart enough to control the object, and then that's what you put on each individual object, rather than essentially an artificial person who can run machines instead of a human.
I wrote last week, you just brought up Dune, and I brought up last week Frank Herbert. One of the things that, and he did this in 1965, Isaac, which to me is more impressive as I look back at it. His overcoming faster than light was he needed a writing element there in science fiction, and which was the spice melange.
Yep.
And so that eliminates space-time, that eliminates faster than light, that eliminates space in general, where you just appear. You're folding space, and you just appear at the blink of an eye in your destination. Something that David Lynch, the way he portrays it in the movie, is actually...
a radio group that I actually really like the David Lynch film.
You know what? I love that movie. I watch it all the time. But anyway, it just... blip, right? The space navigators, the guild navigators, just appear outside of Arrakis, right? Boom, right? Just appear. Is that something that would answer what you have been looking for in other astronomers and astrophysicists? Is movement between the stars, right? We haven't seen that. We haven't seen space travel. But if it is achieved, say, the Frank Herbert way, where you just are appearing at the planet, then you wouldn't see necessarily these UFO highways in between the stars.
Very much so, yeah. If you got something that just forwards space between locations, and memory source for the Dune one, the navigators could pick the location, and the machine actually just, they plugged in the machine, that's where they went. But something like that would get around being able to see the spaceship by its energy signature, which is enormous for a massive spaceship like that. A rocket ship that big coming into our solar system, you'd be able to see it out by Pluto as bright as a new star when it's slowing down. There's that much energy involved. But that kind of system would tend to circumvent to be able to respond that way. The problem is that, like so many Fermi paradox solutions, if you make space travel that much easier, you've got to wonder why they're not all over the place already. And so you have to find a reason why they either can't do that or specifically do not want to. And one interesting implication from Dune that you looked at a little bit in one of the sequels, I think it was Chapter House or Heretics, it was the idea that they don't colonize the galaxy, they just colonize individual stars that are spread all over the universe or even other universes, and they're all so far apart from each other that they don't even know if they're in the same locations or not. Their empire is basically potentially spread across the multiverse, and it's just stars they've colonized.
Well, okay, what would you look for to have a civilization present on a planet? What would be those signatures?
For a planet itself, the most obvious one is going to be the signal noise, but that can be iffy. You're not really trying to pick up a radio signal because you probably aren't going to get anything that doesn't look like noise. You want to use data compression because that lets you be more efficient, and the thing about data compression is that it's trying to make the thing it's compressing as close to noise as possible. The idea is to compress anything with a pattern, because a pattern, instead of having to do the same thing 100 times the signal, you're compressing that to one transmission of that pattern. And so in an ideally compressed signal, it looks like noise. So you're not actually looking for a signal from one of those planets because it probably all looks like noise anyway. What you're actually looking for is basically the waste of that, the fact that that planet should have a very small radiation field or radio field around it from natural sources, but for some reason has a whole bunch. And even that's kind of flawed because they might use landlines, digital optical signals, etc. But we'd expect to see some kind of techno signature around the planet.
Well, and we're getting closer and closer to that right now on Earth in our own primitive way, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. If you're looking at, say, trying to find an alien civilization, it's easier to spot them when they're primitive in some ways because that's when they're using very strong, very uncompressed signals. We've been weakening radio signals as time goes on because we're better at receiving them and we compress them more so more like noise. A planet could easily be undetectable by its radio signals because it just doesn't have that much of them power-wise, and they're also compressed. They look like noise.
Yeah, and we're using optical cables. We're using cables. We're not necessarily using radio transmissions like we did in the past with, giant megawatt radio towers. We've moved away from that, and now everything is a digital controlled transmission.
Sure, but we probably look pretty bright in the 2.4 gigahertz frequency.
Well,
and we weren't able to see what that was.
Yeah.
It's a million overlapping compressed signals, but if you're looking with a powerful telescope at a planet, and again, you don't need high resolution on things like that, because that's about trying to spot a pattern as opposed to just seeing the intensity. You could look at a planet and say, wow, there was way too much of this specific band of radiation. Why? What naturally would create that? And if there's no obvious answer, you say, if it's artificial in nature, it tends to stick out like a sore thumb. There might be a natural cause, but then you look for something else. You say, well, if it's giving that one unnatural signature, can we find another one? And you start getting 3 or 4 of those. That's a hard hit. At that point, you say, okay, this is obviously artificial.
Now, wouldn't a robust artificial intelligence system and brain center know this and attempt to hide where it is and not show the universe what is going on?
Probably not. The hiding's not a good philosophy when you're in space travel because you would assume that who do you hide from? You hide from somebody who can hurt you, which in the space context is somebody who's older than you. right? They're older, they're wiser, they're more spread out, they got more technology. You can't hide from them because, astronomy is history. They saw you back when you were primitive. That's when they first saw you. That was their first hit. Now they know where you're at, and they can be looking at you, and they'll see you trying to hide, so it doesn't work out. They know where you were. They saw you back when you were weak. They saw you when you were a baby.
Right.
And if they want you, the fleet's already on the way.
Now, okay. Now, suppose you find a resource-rich planet with element 115, right? Whatever it is. And you don't want everybody to know this, your secret. You're going to hide that you are there. You don't want everybody else, just like the gold rush, that happened in the 1850s.
Sure. If there's a naturally occurring, and generally with raw materials, they're going to be fairly evenly spread around the universe. You will have systems that have a higher concentration of this or that. I mean, there are probably asteroids made of almost pure gold lying around from where two neutron stars collide, or white dwarfs. I can't remember the creation mechanism for gold is off the top of my head, but you're going to have places like that, and people are going to want those. The problem is that if it's from your own civilization, they're going to know you went heading out there, and they're going to come across that pace, and someone's going to try to stick your claim. On the other hand, if it's an alien civilization, if they're older than you, they could have gotten there first, because they only need 1 million years to colonize the whole galaxy. If they really want that material, then finders keepers, and first person gets it, and they had a time edge. If they came into existence back when the dinosaurs were on Earth and running the show, then they've got the whole galaxy by now if they want it and were able to take it. If they're not able to take it, then it's not an issue. And if they didn't want it for some reason, then it's not an issue. So we know that if they want it and could get it, they already got it.
Now, right. And so if we go through this type of cyclical rise and fall of these civilizations, maybe that's why we're not seeing the colonization of the universe, because eventually something bad happens.
Well, that's the problem, is that, you could have that happen, of course. Civilizations do rise and fall. But when we're talking about civilizations in this context, it's not Rome, it's humanity, right? And even Rome, when did Rome fall? There are so many different places that claim the title, and Rome is still a very populated city that's the center of a major, socio-economic, religious setup, right? So when did Rome fall? Doesn't necessarily matter, though. Humanity has kept growing in size that whole time. Some individual star empire might fall down and break up, but what knocked it over? Usually somebody else, or an internal feud. And then after that initial chaos, they just keep going back to expanding again, or some fragment or splinter of them picks up the shards and builds back up again.
Well, that brings my favorite word. We've got 1 minute before the break, and we'll circle back after the break. Is entropy. I mean, you've got a degree in physics. You understand entropy just about as well as anybody. Is there a way for these advanced civilizations to overcome the second law of thermodynamics, right?
We can't rule it out. It'll be their highest priority. But if they can't reverse it, they can postpone it in some major ways, especially with artificial intelligence.
How would they do it?
Well, there's, I don't know if we're going to have time for right now. We want to come after the break. But basically, they'll take advantage of the code of the universe getting expanded.
I like that approach. I don't agree with it, but we're going to talk about it when we come back. Our guest tonight, Isaac Arthur, artificial intelligence. Now, we're discussing artificial intelligence throughout the universe. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. More with Isaac when we come back after this short break. Stay with us.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal God, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to getthetea.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's getthetea.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRAradio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church, talking about artificial intelligence tonight with Isaac Arthur. If you missed this show or any live show, just go to our website, click on the podcast banner. We have over 1,200 shows right there for just $2 per month. Sign up today right there at jimmychurchradio.com. Isaac, right before the break, we were talking about entropy. It's one of my favorite words. And surely, in order to succeed, great lengths of time and span time and take over the universe, you would have to somehow kick entropy's butt. I actually wrote a column about this last week, and E.T. must have figured this out in a simple way. Let's go back to your comment right before the break.
Well, if we're talking about just sticking inside of what we can do with entropy, then what we do know is the theoretical maximum on most efficient computing you can do is inverse to the temperature that you're running at. So the colder you get, the more calculation you get out of every little bit of energy. And for instance, if you're calculating the void of intergalactic space, it's 100 times higher than what it is here on Earth. And you can already, if you're running at that, what we call the Landau limit, already run a human mind on something like a billionth of the amount of energy it takes right now. And so they could do it, say, 100 billion times more efficiently. But as the universe expands and cools down, you keep getting faster and faster with your computing. So you're running out of energy, you're running out of entropy, but you're getting more efficient with it because it's getting colder. And so at that point in time, you could be running around, black holes, living out the Hawking radiation or little bits of matter you were dumping into one, and performing calculations. And interestingly enough, if you're in that expanded universe, you can actually be running far more advanced and huge, thinking empires at war than right now. But to do that, of course, you have to abandon the biological approach and switch over to, totally computer substrates and probably using substrates and power collection way beyond anything we could even dream of right now. But theoretically possible ones at the very least. To actually start beating entropy, though, that's when you need to start looking at things like, multiverses and opening up a wormhole to another universe to suck energy out of it, or suck matter out of it, or just migrate to it.
Now, I love this part of physics, too, and quantum physics, getting into this discussion. We'll get back to that. But if we are staying on the second law of thermodynamics side of entropy and how physics is based around that, which I understand that, then there's the second definition of entropy, which is everything starts out simple, ends in chaos, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Mm-hmm. No free lunches, and everything ends in the end.
That's right. Wouldn't E.T. have gone through this many times, right, and know how to look? You brought up Rome. That's a great example of entropy, if you ask me, where it doesn't matter if it's Rome, Greece, China, Spain, Great Britain. All of those great empires started out simple, got too complex, collapsed on themselves, and had to retreat. I've always viewed that as entropy playing out in its purest definition as well. We still haven't learned from that. We haven't. We have not figured that out yet. But E.T. surely has gone through it many times, right?
If there's anything cyclical that tends to happen, they're going to be putting all their money and all their energy into trying to figure out ways to circumvent that. So if societies are prone to collapsing after a century or two, they'll be looking for every possible way to avoid that, or survive that, or push through that. Whether or not they succeed is another question. Same thing for entropy. There may not be ever a way around that, but if there is, they'll be throwing every resource they've got behind a billion planets for a billion years around trying to crack that problem.
Now, if if an intelligent civilization out there is taking over galaxies one by one, would it end up being separate, should I say this, separate civilizations, or would it be controlled by one central government?
Or one central mind.
Yeah, one central mind.
If you have light travel, nothing's preventing you from making one super mind that is essentially, a billion Matryoshka brains. Those are computers built around an entire star that just run on that, and they're all linked together in some kind of galactinet, right, or universanet. And that's one of those scenarios that could happen in a case like that, instead of having a civilization of a billion worlds with a billion kingdoms all wrapped together in some central empire, that you just have one big mind.
And now we're talking about power. Would that be, are we talking like a Dyson Sphere computer?
Oh, no, that's just a Matryoshka brain. That's a single star. You start linking a billion of those together, that's a whole new, whole new thing. So now, Matryoshka brain, Dyson, that's basically a Dyson Sphere that's nothing but a computer. That already has a kind of computational power that would let it simulate a trillion people as though they were alive in a virtual world. That's about how much mind power you're talking about. They are just using essentially what we have on all best computers right now, stretched out to like our theoretical limit. What's on the table? They are insanely powerful. They have access to a billion times the energy that the sun gets to the Earth, and they presumably are way more efficient at using it. And they're doing nothing but competing with it.
Now,
it's huge.
Would this be AI in its purest definition?
It would be a very powerful thinking engine. It might be mini thinking engines. You might do that with an entire civilization where you just turn them all into computers living in a virtual world, the people living in a virtual universe, essentially. Or it could be one massive brain. It just depends on how that goes. It could be all of the above. There's just a huge amount of computational power there. And that looks like where they want to go, yeah.
Yeah, let's stay right there for a second. Do you see this as being a possibility? I actually want to ask that direct question. I mean, it's nice. It's great science fiction, but do you believe that would be possible? A simulated universe?
It should be. It depends. I mean, we do them right now. Every video game is a simulated universe. It just depends on if we were living inside one ourselves, for instance. There's a good chance that whatever's simulating us is a much more complicated universe than what we are. But anytime you're in any kind of simulated world, say one of those MMORPGs people like to play, like Warcraft, those are simulated universes. In a very real way, those are real places. We'd be talking about something that was orders of magnitude more sophisticated, but at the end of the day, it just depends on whether or not you're saying someone who lives on a computer chip is a person or not. Does it actually matter what substrate they're on? Does it have to be neurons or computer chips? Is it possible? You can never make a more complicated simulation than the thing that's actually simulating it, but you don't actually have to simulate every atom in a simulated universe for it to be a good simulation. You could model our universe quite accurately with probably just one Matryoshka brain to the point that we ourselves would probably not notice we were in a simulation.
I have been playing, I just started a couple of weeks ago, mind blown, No Man's Sky. And the ideas behind No Man's Sky is, now it sounds way too complex, an impossible game to have made. It's actually very simple, and it's very elegant in that these trillions of worlds that are there, each one is created with artificial intelligence. It's machine learning. It's creating its own world for you, and nobody in the game can visit the same world twice, theoretically.
Yeah, it's procedurally generated memory, so as I've heard a lot about from my audience, though I've never had occasion to play it myself. But those are things we might start seeing pop up. The most sophisticated worlds that you can build a virtual simulation are probably going to be those that have a lot of people and resources involved on our end. So those would probably be shared environments, but people could easily end up having their own simulated worlds, even if it was like a house, a valley somewhere that was simulated that was just where that was like their house they lived in, It might be the equivalent of a room in their house they spend a lot of time in. It's so hard to see how that's going to go. We've looked at that, and the problem you always hit with those is you have to decide, is the term virtual world at a certain level of sophistication actually meaningful anymore, or should we be thinking of these virtual worlds as no different than going and colonizing Mars or Alpha Centauri?
Now, as you and I talk about this, here we are in 2020, and if somebody was out there observing our planet with a telescope, they're not seeing you and I right now, right? They're seeing Earth from whatever, a million years ago.
History, yeah. They're seeing it from how many light years away it is in years.
You're right. So would they be looking at? Most people don't wrap their mind around it this way. They think, they assume, and naturally, that if you're in your backyard looking at a distant star in the telescope, that you're looking at that star and its potential planet that is orbiting it in the now. But you are not. You are looking at the ancient version of said star and planet, right?
Yep. Now, one can kind of get into the more philosophical ends of relativity to argue that time does not run the same in all places, and that for all practical purposes is there, here, and now, because that's what you're connected to by causality. But yeah, those are ancient. You're looking at the Andromeda Galaxy, that's what it was 2 million years ago before we discovered fire. That is ancient. There could be a sprawling galactic empire there by now, and we wouldn't have seen it if there's no fast and light, way for them to get to us.
And which takes me to my point. So, Arthur, for you, as you are looking for and thinking about and contemplating ancient civilizations out there, Andromeda, our closest galactic neighbor, is still 2 million light years away, and it's right next door. Right? Yep. That's our close, and that's 2 million light years. So their observations of us are from 2 million years ago, if they're looking in real time with the telescope, and us the same for them. How do we speed that up? Or, because we're looking at 2 million years ago, we're not looking at a civilization that has risen in the million years in the middle, right?
we have no way of knowing if there's anything there until we get there ourselves, and even those of us back here on Earth won't know about it until it's really old news. You send off a fleet there to go check, and they get there, say, 10 million years from now, and then we get the signal back from them 12 million years from now. And it's just this overwhelming burden that comes from the light lag involved in trying to maintain any kind of civilization or real-time communication. That's why, of course, it's so much desirable to have fast light communication. Now, that kind of prevents you from having a lot of these big empires themselves because how they keep themselves connected, but it doesn't prevent colonization because, again, same as primitive tribes could spread out and never hear from their splinters, the colonization by them still took place. They just migrated that new area. It didn't matter. They couldn't communicate back to home. But yeah, those things would be ancient. You could have a civilization that was 1 million years old, a few million light years from now, and we still wouldn't be able to talk to them for millions of years, even though they've been around so long, and they wouldn't know about us yet. They would see Earth, though, if they had a big enough telescope, which I don't know if you could actually build one big enough to see a planet from another galaxy. That'd be tricky, but if they could see us, then they would see us however many million years ago they were away. And they might be able to detect us by, the early emergence of some additional fire on the planet, but more likely they'd know we were inhabited by, too much oxygen in the atmosphere. Wouldn't tell them that there was a civilization there, but would say there's life, for instance.
Is this why we should just focus on the Milky Way?
Yes and no. That's the tricky part. The thing is, we've tend to start looking at galaxies as though they're isolated pockets because that's so much of how stars are. Right. Stars are tiny little pockets. The solar system that we live in, even all the way out to Pluto, is a quadrillionth of the volume that our sun dominates gravitationally, and that you could call it the sun's territory. Galaxies, it's not like that. Galaxies, for instance, ours is a conglomeration of a dozen little galaxies we've eaten over the last few billion years. There is no real end to the Milky Way or into Andromeda or beginning. There are stars out between the galaxies, and indeed there might be more stars in between galaxies than in them, but whether it's more or not, it's quite a lot. They're spread out way thinner, but there is no edge. It's more like continents, or archipelagos. A galaxy may be 2 million light years away, but that galaxy itself is 100,000, 200,000 light years across, and that's just the main galaxy. Out past that, you still have the rural areas, as it were. All these little stars have been ejected from systems, and whole nebulae that might be floating between galaxies. So basically, a land bridge between them.
There is another part to this that I find fascinating. By the way, have you read Brian Greene's new book, Until the End of Time?
Not yet.
Okay, well, that's a must-read. But one of the things that I have been hearing in the rockstar physicist circles, which I love. These guys gossip better than anybody. But one of the things that they are talking about now, this chatter, is that there is no end to the universe, potentially, that the universe is absolutely indeed infinite and it extends out. And that the Big Bang may not be the start of time. It's just one of many Big Bangs inside of our universe, which would explain galaxies popping in all directions because there may have been an infinite amount of Big Bangs and the start of time wasn't 13.8 billion years ago.
Oh, it's a popular theory, and you've got most folks have heard about the Tegmark multiverse theories and things like that, but Brian Greene has his own too, and we actually have an episode. I already produced it, but it won't be coming out for a month or so, but it comes out while I'm on honeymoon on Parallel Universe, and we walk through each of what those are. And Brian Greene does have a bunch of different ones he's classified, and the Quilted multiverse, for instance, is the one you're kind of speaking of there, where you have an infinite amount of space, but it's broken up into smaller observable universes, as it were. And that's totally allowed inside the known Big Bang.
Right.
We know the observable universe, well, we don't know for sure, but in all probability, the observable universe is smaller than the total universe because otherwise we're the exact center of the universe. That would be a bit bizarre. More likely, it's like if you're standing in a warehouse with just a little candle, you can't see the walls, right? And if you can't see any of the walls around you, just at this pool of light as a circle, you know you're not, the warehouse is probably much bigger than your candlelight is, because you'd probably be positioned to see one wall. It'd be weird for you to be in the exact center. And it's kind of the same notion there. We don't know if the whole universe, without even getting into multiverses, just this universe, is a little bit bigger than the observable portion, or infinite, or anywhere in between. But it's probably a good deal bigger. It has to be at least 10 or 12 times big just to make it realistic that we could not be seeing one of the edges. But there's also, I'm trying to remember what it's called. I think he has 9 different versions of multiverse he goes through, but one of those is that there are lots of big bangs that go on, and this usually ties a little bit into, well, not string theory, but brain theory, which is, well, M theory, which is very similar to it, which is the notion that you have all these membrane universes, 3-dimensional, but we picture them 2-dimensionally, that kind of collide into each other every so often. That sets off a big bang, and it's one of the ways you can have a multiverse where you just have a ton of these observable universes that are not really connected to each other, but do have some overlap. But then you also have the possibility there's just a bigger universe underneath where you have localized big bangs pop up. And there's been a number of theories along those lines, even dating back to the steady state theory, that big bangs might just be localized things that happen every so often when quantum energy gets too weak. As an example, the Big Rip theory everyone's fond of, in that the expansion universe keeps getting stronger and stronger until it can eventually rip quarks apart. Well, the thing about when you pull 2 quarks apart is that quarks cannot exist in isolation. If you pull 2 quarks apart, you produce 2 new quark pairs. And if you pull those apart, you now have 4 new quark pairs. So if you're ripping quarks apart, you could arguably end up producing a big bang just from that. So in some Big Rip versions, you could actually have that happen, and it just spawns new, infinite numbers of new universes constantly being spawned by this expansion energy. Whenever that universe gets to a certain point, it shreds itself and bang, big bang.
Now, okay, let me ask you this. I know that you're getting married on Saturday. We've got 6 minutes left in the show, or I can hold you over for another 20 minutes into some overtime.
Oh, sure.
You down? Okay, because I've got some very deep questions that can't get answered that quickly. But let's stay here for a second. When it comes to artificial intelligence and the grand creator, whatever you want to call that, whether it's God, spirituality, or an artificial intelligence, is it possible that an artificial intelligence that has been around forever, previous universes, lagging over, and we're going to get to Brian Greene's Until the End of Time, one of the things he talks about in the closing of the book. But could the universes and these special moments of stability that cause a Big Bang be created by an intelligence?
Quite possibly. That kind of gets into simulation theory, and essentially, if you can create a simulated universe, then you presumably what's the difference in terms of how you choose to name them? We sometimes suggest that black holes might, when they form, spawn a new universe. Is that any different than a universe creating a very large computer and creating a virtual universe on that computer? It's still, totals all the way down, as it were. Whether it's on a computer chip or through some unknown physics or different rules or God, take your pick, that's functionally identical in many ways. So is it possible? We don't know enough about the physical laws of the universe to say if it is or not. Plus, in a simulation, you presumably don't have the same physical laws in the universe above you, unless they specifically aim for that. So you wouldn't even be able to know. As with any case like that, when you go to a creative situation, whether it's a simulation or Brahma, take your pick, you only know about them if they permit you to. You can never prove you inside one.
Is it too deep of a philosophical issue to suggest that everything may be way beyond chance? It's way beyond the probabilities and what math and equations and algorithms can show you, that it could only have been done by an artificial intelligence of some kind.
That's always a really tricky thing to go for there, and I try to stick strictly inside of what we can absorb naturally. And the problem with physics is that it's the study of the natural universe.
Right.
When you get outside of the natural laws, you can only ever interpret that data from a natural perspective, because that's your first starting point. You're saying, I'm assuming everything is natural and studyable. So you can't really prove anything supernatural, whether we're saying from a higher universe or whichever the case happens to be, from kind of that context of looking at natural laws. It's not really gonna sync up right. You cannot prove you're inside a simulation unless the person simulating you lets you do so.
That's right.
And the same thing is going to apply to, if you want to do it by just replace the word computer with, psychic energy, astral plane, higher universe, heaven. They are functionally identical in terms of how we define them. You cannot prove inside those by studying the natural laws there that place above does not exist. It's just not possible.
I know, right? And this is, whether it doesn't matter which physicist or theoretical physicist, quantum, that we're talking about here. One of the things that they all know is that quantum physics, or however you want to look at it, is still misunderstood, that they don't even understand it, and that even Einstein's equations only take you so far. Right.
We can predict what happens from quantum, but we have a bunch of different interpretations. It's not just Copenhagen or multiverse. There are tons of them out there. They all predict the same result. That's how we say it's a correct theory, but we have no way of testing which of these is correct at this time.
And so, without being able to go back to the exact moment of the Big Bang at the start of the time today as we know it, if you can't go back there and the math won't only lets you get so close, is that the part of it that becomes philosophical at that point?
It just depends on whether or not the existing universe lets you check these things. For instance, if we were able to detect another Big Bang going on locally, we could adjust the theory around it. But from what we can see right now, we probably cannot ever prove or disprove the existence of multiverses. But we've only been studying the problem for not even a century yet, so new things might occur. But it is kind of a recurring problem with quantum is we don't really know why it works that way. We know how it works in this universe, but why? Not so much. And it's the same problem we have with the Big Bang. We don't know why the Big Bang was able to violate conservation of presumably energy and entropy in the first place. No clue. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it's just an example of a point chaos system where it was all entropy, but a pattern arose randomly. You shuffle a deck of cards enough times, it's going to fall back into its suit, even though it's getting higher entropy each time. Eventually, it resets.
Is that
and so? The universe should do that if it's a steady state one.
Is that physics tapping out? What I mean? Are you tapping out on the mat? Are you calling uncle?
No, definitely not. But I'm saying that the moment we can't, one thing we always have to be careful with in science, just because so far we found answers to everything, we should not assume that we're always going to get answers to new questions. But we can't just be saying, well, we've always gotten these answers, so we're going to get the next ones too. However, there's no other way to approach it. What should we do? Stop?
Yeah.
What else should we do with our time?
Can you imagine, Sean Carroll or Brian Greene or yourself, whatever, going, you know what? Okay, we get it. It was just random.
It's possible. Okay, I'll give you an example. Under quantum theory, it's possible for any group of atoms to kind of spontaneously mutate into another group of atoms. It's highly improbable, but for instance, a few atoms could turn in from carbon into a single sugar molecule.
That's right.
Therefore, since there's a finite chance of that, there's a smaller but finite chance that a random rock could turn into a candy bar, or that the Statue of Liberty could mutate into a big golden calf. And you can imagine that, let's say tomorrow the Statue of Liberty was replaced with a giant golden statue of Thor. You're never going to convince people that was a quantum event. They're never going to buy that. It doesn't matter if it's what actually happened or not. They're never going to buy that. It's so insanely improbable that they're just going to assume a supernatural cause, even if there wasn't one.
Right. It reminds me of Leonard Susskind and his quote. Well, you know what? It's highly unlikely, but it could happen. Right?
Yeah, and that's the problem with things like that. Is it in some way, if multiverse is correct, there is a universe right now where a giant golden statue of Thor appeared, and tomorrow there's going to be a gigantic civil war appearing as people, just convert over to Norse mythology. That has presumably happened somewhere. Anything that can happen will happen in a multiverse, and that includes things that appear to break the physical laws, because you could have a universe where somebody thought they'd created a spaceship that could travel faster than light when they really created one that just blew them up, and in that universe a exact copy of them had reassembled somewhere else faster than light could travel. And in that particular universe, every time someone did that, that's what happened. In a multiverse, there is a place out there where someone has a functional FTL system, even though it's impossible, because just by freak luck, that has worked every single time someone threw the switch.
Every time they hit the go button. Let's take a break right here. Our guest tonight, Isaac Arthur. Isaac, everybody, I want you to congratulate him on Twitter. He is getting married this Saturday, and he is taking the time to hang out with all of you tonight. Thank you for that, Isaac. Let's go into some overtime. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Now, when we come back, artificial intelligence and the end of everything. That's right. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Tepe.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Isaac Arthur. We're discussing artificial intelligence and everything that's out there, starting here on Earth, out throughout the universe. And we are now at the point where, in this conversation, where when we are discussing the size of the universe, the creation of the universe, the randomness of that, I don't have a problem, Isaac, with there must be something else out there, and time is old, right? Time forever is a very, very big number, and the rise and fall of universes must happen all the time, let alone galaxies and suns. That's and Brian Greene, in his new book Until the End of Time, says one thing that confirms something for me that must be a part of everything, which is particles and the basics of everything will end. Everything will eventually break apart, and there will be nothing left. And that includes everything, right? At one point, everything that binds us together will not have that binding. It's a long ways off into the future. We don't have anything to be alarmed about today. But this is something that is being contemplated right now by Brian Greene, and others are talking about it. Have you considered this?
Oh, sure. Playing around with the end of time is, of course, every theoretical physicist has to throw themselves at that problem a bit. I think almost everybody does, regardless whether they're a physicist. What comes after the end of eternity? You know, is there a finite amount of time or not? But when you start playing with infinity in any way, you always have to be a little bit careful. You know, it's not a real number. As an example, let's say time was infinite and there were just an infinite sequence of big bangs, right? Then everything is going to happen at some point in time, including this exact same conversation, not just once, but a million times, a billion times, and, you know, effectively an infinite number of times. Isn't that effectively the end of the universe at that point anyway? Because it's just the same thing repeating. Everything that could happen has happened. So whether it goes on for 10 more minutes or eternity, it's all already happened. Every sequence has already been played. Every game of tic-tac-toe, has been played. It's done. And so at that point, you don't even need an infinite, space or an infinite time. If the universe is infinite in size, and you could travel, faster than light to get to those other bits, you never know if it was infinite or curved around back on itself like a circle, because you'd start encountering bits that were exactly identical to bits you'd already gone to. Mm-hmm. Now, the numbers involved in that are so huge that they need exponents of exponents to actually be, recognized. Some of them are so big that if you actually tried to write that number out on paper, it would undergo gravitational collapse into being a big black hole. But, there are so many ways we could say, is there a limit to infinity? And in that kind of context, to a degree, yeah. If there's an infinite number of things that can happen, but you have a finite value for them to occur in, then they will just start repeating. And if something repeats, what's the difference between something that repeats over and over again and something that's just cyclical, like time being a wheel that endlessly repeats? But as to whether or not our universe will eventually run down, well, based on current models, we'd say yes. But when we get outside of the, this observable universe and this known set of physics, we just don't have any evidence, not one jot of evidence to the universe being bigger than we think it is, although we can probably deduce that it is since we'd be in the center otherwise, or there are other universes, parallel realities, multiverses, four-dimensional universes, 10-dimensional ones, take your pick. If there are an infinite number of these possible places that could exist, what we might call the ultimate ensemble or the whole grand shebang, then, you'd have an infinite number of places where the rules of things like gravity didn't function the same, or there wasn't even something like gravity. There's an infinite number of possibilities, But unless you can actually ever go reach them in some fashion, detect them, communicate with them, or travel to them, you can kind of argue that it's not just semantic to argue that they don't even exist, because you can never go to them.
Well, okay, so let's flip it over for a second. Let's go to the other side. All of the protons, the neutrons, electrons, everything that the constituents of all atoms have now broken down. There's no energy binding them together. And the existence of everything, even the charred charcoal brown dwarf stars, are now dissolved. Right?
Even the black holes have decayed, and even the ion stars have gone. And the ion stars are way later in the universe.
Everything is gone, except now on the outside of our universe, where there is a younger universe that has been created, and now those civilizations are traveling the stars. They are still 10 trillion years away from dissolving into nothingness, but they're out there in their Isaac Arthur Star Cruiser. And they drive through our old part of space. But there's nothing left here to tell them that we ever existed, right? Everybody assumes there's going to be some remnants of humans, but they're going to cruise through here, and there will be no evidence that we were ever here because it's dissolved.
In a case like that, I mean, if they can cruise here, why couldn't we cruise there and know we existed?
But that's what I'm saying. Our star cruisers eventually dissolve into cosmic dust.
Only if we don't got a new source of matter to build them off of. If they can cruise here, then we could presumably have traveled to them. If there's some universe that would exist that could even come here afterwards, then why couldn't we travel there and get some new raw energy and material?
Right. Well, see, and that's what Brian Greene is suggesting here, that everything around us, everything will break apart and not exist anymore. So we wouldn't even have the ships to go somewhere else into another universe, into one of our galactic neighbors, because those ships that we're driving on and our body, everything would just dissolve into nothing. Is that depressing? Is that too dark of a future, even though it's a septillion years in the future?
Well, in a way, it's easy to picture chaos running things down. But with the example of like black hole-based civilizations, ones that are running on Hawking radiation, those get brighter as they get older. So they're not, trailing off in this universe of cannibalism and fading out. Those, basically, they blow up. Civilization speeds up as that time goes on. So they're going out with a bang rather than decaying out. But in the end, yes, in an entropy-based universe, everything runs down eventually. But everything already runs down in a local sense. That's more of a philosophical issue of nihilism, of does it actually matter if the book has an end? Well, every book has an end. And we'd like in theory to be able to go on forever, but if we could go on forever, no matter what we try to look at it from, if time goes on infinitely, then everything repeats anyway. If everything just runs infinitely long, then everything that could happen will happen over and over and over again. In which case, again, how is that any better of a fate? If the book runs out because it has a chapter at the end, it's in the epilogue, the book is closed, last chapter. Or one that just keeps repeating over and over again. I don't know which of those is the more ideal universe, but if you have an infinite amount of time, you will just keep repeating. Totally, you have a set amount of time, the book closes.
And
either way.
Right, and I totally agree with that. The part that bums me out about it, where my excitement kind of fades, is memory. And this is where energy gets into a play here, and consciousness, and we get into that whole philosophical discussion. But in Brian Greene's presentation, it sounds to me that he is implying that even memory and consciousness, if it's out there existing in clouds of energetic, masses out there in the universe, that even that will cease to exist, that even our memory of the past will be no longer. So in the repeating of time, I don't get to enjoy that. right? You don't get to enjoy that. We don't even know that the repeat is happening.
Oh, yeah. You have no idea. But I don't know if you enjoy time repeating anyway. If you are just going for the computer model, that you're storing your brain on a big computer, that takes space and energy to run. You'll start cannibalizing old memory, compressing things. You no longer need to remember everything that happened in 2120. You start going to the major events. You cannibalize your hard drive. As matter, you can throw it down a black hole for more energy. And in the end, your last conscious mind in that kind of context would be something that was just barely conscious enough to be aware of the fact that it had no memory. That sounds horrible. Effectively, a type of, senility that the last minds would be cannibalizing themselves into, the near unawareness of their own existence until they can't maintain the system anymore. But the upside is that, again, if it's a Hawking black hole based system, the power actually goes up at the end. So you actually would have the energy enough to run yourself and just choose to go out with a bang, as opposed to, because black holes evaporate, they get brighter and brighter with time, they give off more energy until they explode. If you're running your things that way, you don't have to go that way. You can just instead choose to ride that out and go, boom.
And if we go down that scenario, our artificial intelligence, memory, mind existence over time is nothing but error correction, right?
To some degree. And that's the other thing is it costs energy, it costs material to maintain yourself. So that's the biggest part about trying to use something like a Hawking radiation-based computer, is how would you manage to maintain something that long? Well, you could see we'd be doing off of staggered ones where each one was a little bit less massive than the others. But you are going to always, with any system, eventually run down. That's not just, even if you could find a way around entropy,
right? That's
what happens, is because, again, as we were saying, you would otherwise end up with a cyclic model. And what's the difference between a book that ends and one where it's just 100 copies of the exact same book?
With error,
is Shakespeare going on? Are we learning more about this or that book series because someone's reprinted that same book 1,000,000 times?
And with misspelled words.
Yeah.
Right?
You get some drift. But
yes,
with an infinite number of those, it is the infinite monkey's typewriter solution. You get every last scenario possible that way.
Right.
You have every possible book that's been written, and it gets written millions of times, and rather than just being a complete book, it's not a sequel to make a copy of the same book. It's got a minor flaw to it, a minor change to it, especially when all of those books have been written. So even without entropy, you do have an effective end to eternity just because it just repeats.
Man, I love entropy. It's like the best word ever. It's like the best word ever. Okay, now let's close. Again, I want to thank you for taking the time. You're getting married this week, man, and thank you for this. Now let's get into a heavier philosophical issue here. You brought this up earlier about the duplicate you being on a hard drive or on a chip, whatever. The example of that, when I hear very intelligent people out there discuss this, they leave out one core component, which is, let's just say you, Isaac, or Bill Gates, or whoever has put themselves into an android, right, to live forever, right? We're going to be immortal. But you, Isaac Arthur, don't enjoy that. The new you is off and running, creating new memories and a new life. You still exist in your brain. It's not like you are now immortal.
It's a copy.
It's a copy. Right
now,
there.
Its copy is legitimately me as I am, but it's still a copy. I'm still here.
You don't get to enjoy the world of Tron.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You have to live in your existing meat suit.
Yep. The copy of me is, again, it's as validly me as I am, but we're going to divulge very quickly, and I'm still there. You might use copies to back yourself up it's basically a life insurance policy, because we don't just live for ourselves. You might make a copy so that someone could raise your kids if something happened to you, right? But yeah, you are finite in that sense. You can't just copy your brain over and now you have a copy. And yeah, you could maybe burn your brain up as while you vaporize it while you're making the copy, but that just means you destroy the original copy while you're making a new one. our brains do replace themselves. The neurons change with time. There is that gradual replacement. So that might be an approach that people found more palatable, was to just replace one neuron at a time with something artificial. And if you can upload your mind to a computer, there's no reason you can't upload your mind to a computer in your own head. It could even be using regular neurons. I mean, we have cellular repair. If we just give that a little bit of help, we might not need to upload our brains onto any sort of chip, be it on a distant computer network or inside our own brain, and just replace those neurons. But that's probably the only way you can really achieve immortality for the self. But again, that copy of you, if it's a proper copy, it is still you. It's just, you don't get to see the chair getting copied anymore.
Right. You don't get to experience that e-ticket at Disneyland.
It does.
It does.
That version of you is going to wake up and be like, wow, I'm immortal now. And it's like, see, it worked. And it's going to turn around, look at you in the chair and be like, oh, what do we decide we're going to do on that one? And in my own case, I actually have a set protocol for this. We just change the middle name to a B, a C, a D, etc. until we just...
Right. Well, see, when I hear this deep philosophical question, right, coming from an interviewer, which I've done it myself, okay, I'm guilty of it, but would you upload yourself onto a hard drive? My answer today is not what it was before, where I had to sit and think about these deep questions. It's who cares? Who gives a crap? Sure, I will. I'm not being uploaded. A copy of me is. But I'm still here in my physical self in this 3D reality that I call Burbank, California. I'm not.
I only do it as a frozen copy.
Right.
The biggest thing is people tend to overlook some of the downsides of this. For instance, it sounds neat to have somebody who's going to help you out with your work, especially for those of us who are mostly computerized or thought-based work.
Right.
But they're also going to want to spend time with your friends, spend time with your spouse or your loved ones, and after a little while, that might get to be a little bit aggravating, especially as you diverge. You're very different lives at that point in time. It's like two twins. They're not really the same person anymore.
That's right.
Not after that first few minutes, even. Because that's a pretty life-shocking event to suddenly be on a computer, too, so you're going to diverge very quickly. They're kind of in the way a bit. If you want to have a copy of yourself that way, have a kid.
Yeah, exactly. Have at it. And you bring up such a great point. You would the divergence would be so quick, and your new version of yourself would be so far removed from your personality, like instantaneous. Right?
Now, which one is the real one? The question is, does it even matter? What if they make a copy of themselves? Is that copy another copy of you or a copy of them? Or it just gets confusing. But we actually did an episode on that on Me, Myself, and I, Cloning and Duplication, just trying to look at all the crazy scenarios that would be described. But the only time I could see people doing it, I'm sure some folks would do it just because, like, let's say you met two people and you really wanted to go into business as an artist, but you also want to keep your day job. You might make a copy of yourself to see what that was like. But that's a lot like raising your kids vicariously to do the thing you never did. But whether or not that's ethical, some people would still do that. They might do it for colonizing planets too, because those are so divergent at that point in time, those personalities separated by light years, that who cares? You could send the same team of 1,000 people to 1 million different solar systems, their copies, and it'd still all be different. And if you just modified the crew a little bit, you say you had a pool of 2,000 volunteers, and you sent 1,000 randomly selected for the right jobs, their interactions on that trip, and when they get to that alien world, are going to be so divergent that they're different people.
Yeah, they would have a revolution on they would have black markets, mafia, and the Illuminati all running in the virtual world. See, this is the thing. The divergent part of it, running off into another direction, I could see, 20 minutes later, I email the virtual Isaac Arthur, right? Hey, man, what's going on? Hey, I'm too busy. I'm taking over the world. I'm plotting. You know what I mean? You would just go off.
Well, that's what we meant about the time thing being a bit weird too, though. Is remember, it can speed its brain up so it can reply to that email anyway. It's going to be busy doing a lot of things, but it presumably has time to answer emails. Those are the best kind too, because it doesn't have to listen to the entire conversation instead of a million forward. You don't have a linear time of being busy. If you need a little bit of extra processing power, especially because it's always going to cost you a little bit of extra energy to run faster because it's more heat to get rid of, you're never too busy. You just speed up how quickly you're clocking, especially if it's kind of a network intelligence where you're kind of buying computational time. You need a little bit extra time, you buy it. So now you're running 1 million times faster instead of 500,000 times faster for a few minutes while you deal with what the problem is. You don't have a set amount of time. You just have the amount of time you can pay for in terms of energy and computation.
And the other part about it that I find fascinating is that all of the duplicate versions, the divergent versions of us, would, in their mind, have a version of themselves, right? An emoji. They would have an avatar. And could you imagine the Isaac Arthur Part 2, what that avatar would be, how it pictures itself?
I would be terribly remiss if I didn't give a quick plug to my friend Dennis E. Taylor's Barboverse series. He basically, it's an example there where there's an uploaded mind that wakes up centuries later after having been frozen, and they made a copy of the brain instead of thawing him out. And it's sent off as an interstellar probe to colonize the galaxy. And it has to deal with all of those iterations of these people becoming their own personality.
Right.
And as each step gets cloned more and more times, the divergence is so great that it barely even resembles the original anymore. And it's, great series. But that's the kind of situation you're dealing with there. Is a thing to keep in mind is if you look at human DNA or human brain in its basic form, the difference genetically between me and my kid and any other human is so tiny in terms of our DNA compared to, say, a tree. Right? We are so close together that if you took our DNA code and wrote it out as dots on a book, filling a library, you'd have to hunt through several volumes to find one digit off between two people. We are already clones and duplicates of each other. That's what divergence is. So we talk about making a copy of a mind. The mental aspect is, yes, a little bit tighter than that is because you don't have that full developmental time, but there's a huge divergence. And people do resemble each other a lot. Whole basis of psychology and sociology is that we have certain set patterns we go through. In copies of the same basic mind, like yours and mine, are going to keep a lot of the same personality traits, but it is fundamentally that same kind of divergence we already see inside humanity or inside individual cultures. They are so much similar, but so much different.
Now, before I say goodnight, one simple question. Would you have your brain frozen?
I actually probably would, just out of curiosity.
I would
if I was going to die anyway,
I would do it too. Now, what, okay, so the answer is yes. The answer is yes for me too. When do you have it unfrozen? When the disease and things are cured? Or do you have it done 5,000 years in the future?
As soon as they felt that they could, there was a 99% chance, that would be my stipulation, a 99% chance of restoring me without any major damage. And if they reached a point where they said they couldn't do better than that, then yes, go ahead and wake me up then, even with the damage. But because I don't want to see that, and I can always get myself frozen again if I wanted to go take a big jump forward in time. Just kind of leapfrog through time.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I would 500,000 years in the future. That'd be cool, just to wake up for the shock of it. Isaac, thank you so.
Rogers intro for the E's.
Thank you so much for the conversation tonight. I have to ask you. This is a weird travel time. What does that do for your honeymoon?
Well, we are going to a fairly remote place to begin with, so we'll be able to engage in social isolation there, and just we're looking mostly to rest up anyway because it's been so busy the last month or two. So hopefully with minimal problems, but we will see. Well, not always accommodates chaos, even outside cases like this. There's always something that comes up. So,
so you're going to fly? Are you?
Oh, no. We're staying close enough in case we have to respond to an emergency, but we'll be traveling a little bit, just by call.
That's what I'm talking about. So you are going to be able to have a little honeymoon.
Yeah, at least we hope so. And we'll just accommodate whatever chaos comes up with that.
Congratulations, man. Thank you for the conversation tonight, Isaac. I look forward to doing it again very soon.
Always glad to be on, Jimmy. Thanks for having me.
You're the best. Isaac Arthur went pole to pole. Thank you, Isaac. And I am going to run credits and get out of here. I want to remind everybody, it's very simple. You need to go to Isaac's YouTube channel and just head to isaacarthur.net. And right now, you have nothing to do the best thing for you to do is get your Learn On. Go to isaacarthur.net and his YouTube channel, which is one of the best. It is the reason to have the internet, is right there for you. And if you need to go and search for it, it's called Science and Futurism with Isaac Arthur right there on YouTube. With that, I'm going to get out of here. I want to remind everybody what's going on tomorrow right here. Dr. Manu Seyesvade is here. We're going to be talking about lost history and the ancient technology of the Egyptians. The who, what, when, where, and why. Who built the pyramids. We're going to do all of that tomorrow night. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Faded Black's executive producer is Rita Camarion. Shows produced by Hill J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Faded Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2020 by Faded Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Faded Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Very special thanks to Isaac Arthur. I'll see everybody tomorrow night. Until then, be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.